Good for Christmas?
Nah, all I did was work.
I got a really nice present from Bitcoin.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, the price went up by like 12 grand. Currently at 40,000. Crazy. Audience chat, how is the sound? How is the sound? Question mark. Looks like we got Skeptic and Trillion in the audience. Sounds good. All right, it looks like we're live. So S Global, thanks for coming on and having a conversation with me. Would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself before we get started?
Um, well, um, as most of you already know, I'm a theist. That means that I believe in God, and I don't believe that atheism is true. And I think that there are very good reasons to believe that God exists rather than he does not exist. And that's basically it.
Okay, I am an atheist. I believe that there are no good reasons to believe in God, no evidence for God at all. I think it's all just the same as Santa Claus or any other imaginary thing. So, could you tell me what evidence you think there is to show that God is more than just an imaginary thing?
Well, sure. The fact that life exists is evidence for God. The
How?
fact that there's a law of biogenesis. Sorry?
How is the fact that life exists evidence of a God?
Because life only comes from life. Life does not come into existence unless there's already a pre-existing life. That's what we observe.
Well, we,
Empirical
we don't
evidence.
we don't actually observe that, but the that's a. Do you know what a composition division fallacy
What do,
is?
what do we observe?
Well, do you know what a composition division fallacy is?
Um, Explain it to me.
So, composition division fallacy is to say that because none of the parts have a property that the whole can't have a property, or to say that because the whole has a property, the parts can't or must have that property. So, for example, if you say every brick, if no brick has the property of walls, therefore, if you put enough bricks together, it'll never create a wall because clearly there was no wall before, and there's no wall in the property of bricks. So, no matter how many bricks you add, you'll never get a wall. And clearly, that's false, right? Clearly, if you add enough bricks together, you'll get a wall, right?
Right?
So the same thing applies to consciousness and life. To say that life can't come from non-life is like saying that walls can't come from non-walls. Like obviously walls can come from non-walls. All walls are made of bricks; they're emergent properties. So the only way life would not be able to come from non-life is if life was fundamental, if life was the smallest particle or whatever. And that's clearly not the case. So to say that life can't come from non-life is a composition division fallacy, like saying walls can't come from non-walls.
So are you saying that the law of biogenesis is false?
I don't know of a law of biogenesis. Where is that law?
Yeah, have you tried Googling it? It pops up right away.
Well, I haven't seen it in any academic papers in biology, so like I can Google lots of things that pop up, but I've never seen it in an academic paper.
What do you mean by academic paper? You mean like peer reviewed?
Yeah, like in a top ranked journal in biology.
Well, I mean, I might be able to find it for you, but even so, I mean, just because it's not in peer review doesn't mean it's not a law, right?
Well, technically
You
that
see
would
how
be
that
what it
follows?
means. So because all of the laws, all of the scientific laws
Well,
are laws because they are referenced in scientific journals. If they're not referenced in scientific journals,
no,
they're
no,
not
no, no,
a
no, no,
law.
no, 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 no. No, I'm sorry, but I disagree. They are laws because they are empirically verified. That's why they're laws.
Um,
Laws are scientific laws because they are empirically verified,
Well, there's no empirically
right?
verified laws that aren't in scientific journals. I mean, how you empirically verify them is in the scientific journals. So if it's not in a scientific journal, it's not an
Oh,
empirically
oh,
verified law.
okay, but I mean, are do we empirically verify that the law of biogenesis is true,
There,
regardless of whether or not it's in peer review?
do we empirically
Is it
verify
empirically
it
verified?
regardless of whether it's empirically verified? Is that what you said?
No, 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 no. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying Is the law of biogenesis empirically verified?
Well, no, there is no law of
That's all I'm
biogenesis,
asking.
and it has not been empirically verified. No.
So we don't empirically verify that life only comes from life. We've empirically verified that life does not come from life. That's what you're saying.
Well, no, it's not quite like that. So we don't have a definition of life. That's the first problem. So there's no such thing as a law of where life can or can't come from because we don't have a definition of life. We don't know what it actually constitutes. So we don't know what we could observe that would qualify as that. Secondly, we do observe things with metabolism coming about without from non-life based things. So if you define life as a metabolism based structure, then yes, we can get life from non-life. The question of abiogenesis, which is where did our life come from, is the only evidence is that it came about by natural processes. There's no evidence of anything else. Like all of the testable predictions, all of the work that's been done in the field all indicates one thing, which is natural process. So all of it indicates the natural process conclusion, which is why it's the consensus in biology. So I don't know where you're getting this idea that the law of biogenesis is empirically verified.
So wait a minute. So wait a minute. I'm gonna ask you again. Have we empirically, okay, let me put it this way. Have we empirically verified any living organism has come from a non-living organism? Have we empirically verified that?
It depends on how you define life, but yes.
When?
And the experiments that we can show different kinds of chemical interactions that produce metabolism in a structure, which would then be defined as life if you define life as a thing having metabolism.
I don't understand. Give me an example of one of these experiments, please.
There was a TED talk where a guy did these on, or he recorded them and showed them on his TED talk, where he showed that you can produce a metabolism-based
Are you talking about the
organisms.
protocells?
So sure, that's one of the examples.
Ah, okay. So I know the TED Talk you're talking about. How is protocells life?
Well, again, because there's no definition of life ever anywhere. No one has an exact definition of life. So we kind of guess and say, well, life seems to be
Right,
like
right, right.
things.
But even you're talking about a guy. What's his name? Jack or whatever his name is. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Even he admits that that's not life. So
Well, no,
how
no, no.
how
He
are you
doesn't admit that.
claiming
So
that
no
this
one,
is
no
life?
one admits that. So again, there is no definition of life. That's the problem. You keep saying, well, what have we seen life come from non-life? First, you need a definition of life that actually works, and there isn't one in any.
Oh,
Nowhere in biology is
okay.
there a
So
definition of life.
what's your definition of life?
I just go with whatever the consensus is in biology. I don't know it off the top of my head.
You don't know what the consensus is?
Because there isn't one. There isn't a consensus on the definition of
So
life.
so then how are you claiming a protocell is life if you don't even know what life is?
Because, like I said, it depends on how you define life. If you define life as a thing with metabolism, then protocells have metabolism, so they would be life. So it depends on how you define
Oh,
life.
no, I wouldn't define life as simply something with metabolism. I mean, there's a
Okay.
lot of qualities that life has. Like, I'm sorry?
I said, okay, that's perfectly fine. Like, you can definitely define life in different ways. But again, what matters here is, well, how does the consensus define life? And, well, there isn't one. There is no consensus on how to
But I
define
keep
life.
asking you. I know, but I keep asking you what the consensus says, and you're telling me you don't know. So, I
No, no,
mean, how
no,
am I
no.
supposed to respond?
The consensus, there is no consensus on the definition of life. There is no definition of life. That's the point. We don't know what constitutes life. We don't know what constitutes the earliest life or how to differentiate it from non-life. It's the Theseus's ship or the problem of the heap. You know what the problem of the heap is?
So you know when something is dead, right?
When it was living and becomes non-living, sure.
How do you know that?
When it no longer has metabolism.
So you're defining life as having metabolism?
That's one of the most common features of every definition of life, yes.
Um, so what other common features would you say there are?
I don't remember all of them. That's just the one I usually go with.
Reproduction? I mean, what do you think?
No, it doesn't have to reproduce to be alive. Because, for example, you could have like a being who doesn't reproduce who is still alive. That's perfectly reasonable. You don't have to have reproduction. Um, so I don't really know what the best definition is because, again, there isn't a solution. We don't know what the best definition of life is.
Would you say life has to be conscious?
Well, no, because the bacteria are alive, but they're not conscious.
How do you know they're not conscious?
They don't have brains.
But who said you have to have a brain to be conscious? I mean, that sounds like question begging. I mean,
All of the evidence from neurology, psychology, cognitive science, philosophy of mind, all of the empirical evidence, everything, all of the evidence we have of every single field shows you need to have a mind to have conscious. There's no evidence of consciousness in any other context.
well, I agree. You have to have a mind to be conscious. But I mean, are you saying that the mind and the brain are the same thing, or are they separate?
Yes,
Like,
yes.
what are you
The mind
saying?
and the brain are the same thing empirically.
Wait a minute. What do you mean they're the same thing empirically? You can see a mind? I mean, I
Well,
don't understand.
yeah, because minds and brains are the same thing. So if you see a brain, you see a mind.
Okay, so let me get this straight. So you're saying that the mind, so hold on. You're saying that the brain created itself, basically.
No, what? That would be impressive. How would the brain create itself? That doesn't make any sense.
Well, that's the question I'm asking you because that's basically what you're saying. You're saying
What?
that there was a point where you're saying that there was a point where no minds existed, right? There was
Yes.
a point in
Yes.
history where there were no minds, right?
Correct.
And then suddenly we have minds when there was previously no minds present, right?
Yes.
So then how is it that we have minds come from non-minds?
The same way before there were any walls, if you put a bunch of bricks together, there was the first wall.
Yeah, but intelligent people create walls, right?
Right. So stars, like the first, there was no stars, and then there was a first star. There was no
Yeah,
planets,
but
then there was a
but
first
you can't.
planet.
Yeah, but I believe that God created these things. I believe that an intelligent person created these things. You don't believe in God, right?
No, no. So uh, there was a first
Okay,
rock that fell. There was a first indent of a rock. There was a
right.
first particle. There was a first river. There was a first raindrop. Like all these things have first that weren't created. They're just natural processes.
Yeah,
There was a
yes,
first
that
tornado.
is yeah, that is true. But this gets into like the first mover argument. But what I'm trying to say is if there are previously no minds, right? Minds are conscious, right? Matter itself, it's not about anything. Matter does not think. It doesn't think about the future. It doesn't think about the past. So how did a mind come from a non-mind?
The
How
exact
did it
same
come
way
from non-matter?
the exact same way a tornado came from a non-tornado.
A tornado happens because of the laws of nature.
Yes, just like mines.
So how did the mind come into existence? A tornado doesn't think, a mind thinks. How did a non-thinking thing, how did a non-rational thing produce a rational mind is what I'm asking you.
Uh,
We only
so
observe
so
conscious
um,
beings.
rationality is a process, and the process is a specific combination of events occurring in some specific order. Another kind of a process is a tornado. A tornado, hurricanes, ecosystems, those are all also processes. And those processes only take place when the physical forces that cause them happen in a specific way. Intelligence and rationality is a process that only takes place when the physical forces acting on them happens in a specific way. So the way minds come from non-minds in the same way tornadoes come from non-tornadoes, it's an emergent property. And so an emergent property is essentially when you have physical forces acting on a thing like a hydrogen atom. The weak and electromagnetic forces, strong forces act on hydrogen atoms. But if you get a whole bunch of hydrogen atoms that pile together, then the force of gravity overtakes the force of the weak and electromagnetic force. It overcomes them and creates a star because what happens is all the particles get smashed together, overcoming the weak and electromagnetic force because gravity becomes stronger than those in that context. And so when you have one force of nature overtake the other forces of nature, you have an emergent property. And this is how things like mines can come from non-mines, and how tornadoes come from non-tornadoes, and how stars come from non-stars, how walls come from non-walls. It's just a new combination or ordering that occurs from a natural force taking over other natural forces.
So are you saying everything that has a brain is conscious?
Well, no, because there are dead people who have brains.
And are you saying, so is a jellyfish conscious?
Probably not.
Why not?
It doesn't have enough neurons. It doesn't have enough of a brain structure to. It's possible, but it's highly unlikely.
Why is it, how does it operate?
Reactions, so kind of like bacteria, it just it has input, and then the input causes a physical interaction in the body, which has an output.
So it somehow knows that it's supposed to eat fish just by reactions. That's what you're saying.
Yes, kind of like a sea
Knows how
anemone.
to.
So, a sea anemone, all it does is when a fish hits the tentacles shoot out the spine hits it, and it eats, consumes the fish's material. It has no brain. It's not conscious. It's just reacting. There's like the plants, the Venus flytrap. Same thing. A bug flies into the Venus flytrap, which causes a physical chemical interaction, which causes the fly trap to close, and then there's the acid inside of the mouth deteriorates the bug. It doesn't know it's doing this. This is just a cause and effect reaction, kind of like an on button on a computer.
Okay. Okay. How do I put this now? Um. So so you're saying that the brain behaves in like predictable ways, right?
Yes.
So like okay, so neurons. Okay, we have neurons. Not do you think we have neurons all over our body or just in our brains?
Yes, they're all over our body. The second most common place is in our stomachs, actually. There's neurons in our spinal cord. Yes, there are neurons lots of places in our brains. Synapses.
So why is it the brain is the only thing that has a mind? Why isn't our heart conscious?
Because consciousness is a specific ordering or patterning in the system. So you could have a whole bunch of neurons that are just lined up in a row, they wouldn't be conscious. You have to have the neurons in a specific pattern and have a specific programming essentially that causes the consciousness to occur. Like for example, you could have our brains have certain functions that other animals' brains don't have, or the shrimp, I forget what it's called, the little punchy shrimp thingy, the fastest punching shrimp in the world, has eyes that can see different colors that we can't see. But the reason it can do that is because its brain has a particular pattern that our brain does not have, or its eyes have a particular pattern that our eyes do not have. The same thing applies to conscious things versus non-conscious things. In order to have consciousness, it is a specific pattern or programming in the neurons that they operate within a certain order that causes the consciousness to arise. And if it doesn't have that order, then it's not conscious. So kind of like a computer, if you have a certain pattern, you have a Windows computer. And if you have a different pattern, you have a Apple computer. And what causes one to be different than the other is the pattern in the electrical diodes, then which is different in the two things. And so if the pattern is different, that's what causes one to have consciousness and one not to have consciousness, just like it causes one computer to have Windows and one computer to have Microsoft.
Oh my God, there are so many problems with this. I don't even know where to begin. All right. Let me try and put this a different way. Um, let me try and put this a different way. Do first of all, where do neurons come from? Like, what is the origin of neurons? That's the first thing. Let me start off with that.
Oh, it's a kind of a cell, kind of like T cells or skin cells or heart cells. It's a different kind of a cell, so it came about through evolution, like the other cells.
So it came about through evolution.
Yes,
So you believe in both abiogenesis, however you pronounce it, and
abiogenesis.
biological evolution,
Yes,
abiogenesis
yes.
and
So
evolution.
abiogenesis is how life came from non-life, and evolution is how the diversity of life occurred through genetic mutation and natural selection.
Right, right. So what evidence do you have for evolution?
We can observe it directly, like we can literally watch it occur in a lab.
when have you watched evolution occur? Because I mean, I have scientists, even Richard Dawkins, who said that we have never observed evolution. So I'm curious to know, when have we observed evolution?
As
Unless
far
you're
as
using a different
I
definition of evolution.
he might be using a different definition, but I don't think he ever said that because we have literally observed it in the lab. So evolution is the changing of allele frequencies in DNA, causing in multiple separations of organisms, and we've literally watched it occur. Specifically, one of the examples is through I forget, lime, some kind of bacterial where we can watch it shift from one species to another species and gain new functions in those new species in a lab if you separate them on different colanders and let them grow in separately. So we can literally watch the genetic shift occurring in species all the time, and we can see it at the micro scale by just watching the DNA and then culturing the DNA and then comparing the different orderings of the DNA, and we can see it on the macro scale on species like lizards and ring species. We can test it that way. We've seen it occur on manually, where we're human driven evolution, where we specifically breed animals to have particular traits and then other traits. We've seen this in essentially every way possible.
Oh, what do you mean by macro evolution lizards? What do you mean?
No, I mean we can see it on the macro level, which means we can see larger traits forming on the body rather than looking at the DNA directly. So we can see, for example, that if we want animals to have bigger beaks, we can breed them to have bigger beaks, and so we can see the genetic
Yeah,
impact
but I
on
mean,
the physical
everybody
body.
agrees on that. I mean,
Right.
that's not what I'm talking about, right? When
Right,
I
right.
say
So when I said
evolution.
macro, that's what I meant. I saw macro changes in the physical homology. Not, I wasn't talking about macro evolution. I was talking about macro size changes as opposed to micro changes being on the genetic level.
Yeah. But I understand what you're saying. But I mean, like the lizard is what changes did you? Can you repeat what you just? I don't even think you told me what changes did you see in the lizard. I mean, you told me about the beak size of a bird, but what do you mean?
There was a study done where they watched the genetic shift across lizards in ring species, where they could see that if they were separated by groups, that the genetic diversity was great enough that they couldn't reproduce with their neighbors, even though they could reproduce, or they could reproduce with their next neighbors, but they couldn't reproduce with neighbors that were like 4 or 5 steps away. But each neighbor could reproduce with the neighbor right next to them. So if you were defining a species based off of reproducibility, then they would all be the same species, but the ones on the far right and far left couldn't reproduce with each other, even though they could reproduce with the ones right next to them.
That's fine and all, but I don't see how that's the type of evolution I'm talking about,
Well,
where
we
you
watched
have
this
like
occur. So we watched this occur. It wasn't that way, and then we watched the genetic thing occur over time. So it was because of the
okay,
genetic diversity.
I understand that, but that's not the type of evolution I'm talking about here. I mean, I'm talking about the evolution that gets you from molecules to mankind. I'm not talking about the type of evolution that gets you from one lizard to a different type of lizard, right?
Well, abiogenesis isn't evolution; those are two separate things.
No, right. But if evolution is true, you have to have a molecule eventually evolve into mankind, right?
Well, no, I
Because
mean,
if a
like if a
molecule,
god created life, you could still
let's
have
say,
evolution. So, like, if God just
let,
magically
let,
created life, and then that life could still diversify, and you could still have evolution, even if there was no abiogenesis. So they're separate things.
what do you mean? What do you mean God magically create life? What do you mean magic?
Like if he snaps his fingers and creates the first life, and then the life starts to reproduce, there could still be genetic diversity and natural selection, which causes the evolution in those life forms, even if abiogenesis didn't happen. So evolution is completely separate from abiogenesis. They're two separate theories.
Well, yeah, that's true. But you're an atheist, so you believe that there's no God involved, which means that abiogenesis must be true if there's no God, right?
Well, not exactly, no, but that's separate from the point. So my point here is that evolution and abiogenesis are two separate theories, and one way to show that is to say if God created life and so there was no abiogenesis, evolution can still happen, and that proves that evolution is separate from abiogenesis. They're two separate things.
No, no. Well, I mean, they wouldn't be. They don't necessarily have to be separate if God exists. But we're assuming, just for the sake of argument, that there's no God.
Uh, sure. So, but there could be, for example, a different kind of a being who's always been there, not a god, just a alien, hyper technological alien, and he could have created a life in that way too. So it doesn't need to be
Well,
a
I mean,
god. But so yeah, essentially the
well, I mean,
options are either it was done by a mind or it was not done by a mind.
if you're gonna give the properties, spaceless, timeless, eternal, I mean, you're just basically calling God an alien. I mean,
No,
that's
no, I'm saying
basically what.
just like
But
a
that's besides the point.
material. I'm just saying like a material being who's always been there, just like an alien, like in what's it called, Mormonism, where there's just a guy who's just a super technological alien who's been there. He's not all powerful. He's not spaceless or timeless. He's just a guy who's in the universe somewhere. And so, I mean, you're right that the options are either abiogenesis, where life was created from no mind, or a design where it was created by a mind. Those are the two options.
Okay, okay, so we're in agreement. So where was I now? Yeah, what I was trying to say is, okay, if evolution is true and that there's no God, then at some point molecules to mankind must be true. So what I'm trying to say is a lizard turning into a different kind of lizard is not evidence for evolution. Let's say the first living organisms was simply bacteria. Let's just say the first living organisms was bacteria. If a bacteria kept turning into a different type of bacteria, how would we ever get to mankind? That's a simple question.
So there's two different things there. One is that again, evolution is just change in genes. It's not molecules to man. Those are two separate things. So
Yeah, but just simply change in genes doesn't produce, like, say, a feather or wing
right.
when the
So what
creature
you're saying is
previously.
that like how do you go from bacteria to man? So it wouldn't be molecules to man, it'd be bacteria to man. So to go
Yeah, that's
from
what I just.
Yeah, so to go from
All right.
bacteria to man, what you need is a kind of information increase in the genes so that they can produce one thing, then go to the next higher level thing, then go to the next higher level thing. And we have observed that too. We've observed in algae that you can go from a single celled organism to a multicellular organism, so it's getting bigger. You can get larger combinations of cells, and you can go from the multicellular organism to develop limbs, and we can see those kinds of occurs happen. Like you can see light, and how eyes develop in single celled organisms. So we can see it going from smaller.
Wait. Hold on. Slow down. Can you just give me one example? Like, what are you talking about? Are you talking about gene duplication? What are you talking about here?
Uh, Single-celled organisms going to multicellular organisms.
When have we observed this?
There was an algae experiment last year that demonstrated this algae going from single cell to multicellular. Question.
Do you remember what the paper was called?
I'm looking it up right now.
Okay.
Science, nature.com. Scientists have witnessed a single-celled algae evolve into a multicellular organism.
Scientists have.
Witnessed a single-celled algae evolve into a multicellular organism.
Okay.
There's a video too.
Single-celled algae. Okay. Let me see something.
William Ratcliffe is the guy who did the experiment.
Okay, I think I see it. Let me see. Science Daily. The source is. This is. What is the author's name?
William Ratcliffe.
William Ratcliffe.
That's L.
Okay. So, which one?
It's the paper is
Which
called
one of these algae?
what?
Which one of these algae? It seems to be like there are different. They have different algae here. Which one of these algae are is uh is considered a multicellular organism?
Uh, they're all single-celled organisms, so they're a specific species called Chlamydomonas Rhin.
Diamond,
Yeah, right, Reinhardtii.
Volvox.
So that's all
Yeah.
of those are single-celled organisms, and they put the single-celled filter feeder predator in the mix, and then as the predator is eating them, those single-celled organisms multiplied into a multicellular organism. It's a new species. So it's on video, so you can watch it occur. You can it's
Yeah,
the big
yeah,
clump
but yeah,
one.
but yeah, but the pectoral is not a multicellular organism, right? Each cell is just identical to the organism, right? They
What?
just live in colonies, right?
No, these are all single-celled organisms. The Chlamydonos, reinhardti's are single-celled organisms. They don't live in colonies. They're all on their own.
No, but it grew in colonies, right?
No,
How did they do the experiment? How did they do the experiment? Because from what I'm reading here, it seems like
they
they
took
sequenced the genome of the pectoral and found that it has genes for cell regulation,
no. I think you
found in the
may
non-cop.
I think you may be looking at the wrong paper. So this paper is called "De Novo Origins of Multicellular in Response to Predation."
The paper, how and why single-celled organisms evolved into multicellular life. That's the same paper, right?
No, that might be a article referencing it. So this was, again, the paper is De Novo. This is the actual paper from nature.com on the scientific journal. I'm looking at the actual paper. So the actual paper is called De Novo Origins of Multicellularity in Response to Predation. What they did was they took a whole bunch of single-celled organisms that were alone and they put them in a petri dish, and then they put in something that kills them and eats them. And then over a long period of time, the single-celled organisms, one of them had a mutation, which then caused it to become multicellular. It was dividing and became a single organism with many cells in order to survive from the thing that was trying to eat it.
All right, I'll have to look at that paper later, but I still don't
To
understand
test the
how that's the type.
validity of this in the lab, the team led by evolutionary biologist William Latkiff took populations of single-celled green algae, big name, and then put a single-celled filter feeder predator into the mix that eats the algae. And incredibly, the researchers watched as in just 50 weeks, less than the span of a year, 2 out of 5 experimental populations of single-celled creatures evolved into multicellular life. Here we show that de novo origins of simple multicellular cellularity can evolve in response to predation. The team write in the paper.
I'm pretty sure that these are colonies, but because I can't read the paper at the moment, I can't really comment on that. But I still don't see how that's the type of evolution that we're talking about. I mean, how do you get from a four-legged land animal to a whale with a blowhole, blubber, ability to
Other way
birth life on
around.
the water? Huh?
Other way around. So it goes whale to fish to land animals, not land animals to fish.
No, 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 no. But evolution says that a four-legged land mammal. I mean, I've watched plenty of videos on this on YouTube and have read plenty of articles about this. That a four-legged land animal, a wolf-like animal, evolved into a whale.
I remember
Um,
it having fins and legs. I don't remember if that was correct or not. Maybe that's correct, but I don't think so. I think it was the other way around. But evolution occurs by saying that changes in genes make it more likely to survive in different environments. So if we can see the changes, for example, if it makes small changes that make it like give it webbed feet or whatever, and it can swim, and then it swims in water and survives better, and then it gains more things like its fur becomes water resistant, so it can swim faster in the water. Then it has the ability to catch more fish and survives, and then it loses its fur to have just skin and it can swim faster, then it survives even more. And so each incremental stage can lead you from a water like thing to a whale just fine. Like there's no problem with there. Why would that be a problem?
yeah, but what I'm saying is, when have we ever observed this? Like, when have we ever observed a land animal, for example, uh, grow a flipper?
We don't, it's called indirect observation. So what we do is we say if we think that X
So it's
occurs,
fake.
no, indirect does not mean fake. So indirect is most science is done through indirect observation. We say
No, I
that
didn't say fake. I said faith.
faith. Well, no, because I
Yeah,
don't
no,
think so. How do you
faith.
define faith?
Faith, something that you can't observe, right? But you believe that it happened.
Well, indirect observations are also observations.
I don't understand. I mean, if evolution is still happening, we should be observing that. I mean, I don't understand
We
how
are
does that
observing it.
follow? I mean,
So
but
do
we're not
you
because
know
we.
what a stalactite and a stalagmite is?
What is it? You tell me.
In a cave, there are these big columns that stick up from the ceiling, or stick down from the ceiling and stick up from the floor. Have you seen those
Yeah.
pictures of those?
Mhm.
Those
Yeah.
occur over thousands of years. Like what happens is there's a little drop of water, and the drop of water contains minerals, and the minerals, as the water evaporates, the minerals are left there, and the minerals then build up over time, and it takes thousands of years for them to build up these giant columns. We never observed the giant column forming in real time because we only live for like 100 years at a time, but we can still say we observe them growing because we can see that a single drop of water leaving residue can build up over time. So we know it happens. All we have to do is see a tiny bit, like under a microscope. If we can watch it happen, then we can observe the stalactites forming. We don't need to see the entire stalactite form from day one. All we need to do is see a little tiny bit of it and conclude, well, if we take this to time X, it'll build the entire thing. The same thing applies to evolution. All we need to do is see a little tiny change and see them building up over time, like in the algae experiment. Then we conclude if we add this up over time for a long enough period of time, we'll get larger things. It's the exact same principle in both.
Yeah, but I don't understand how little things such as a beak growing bigger or smaller add up to a creature developing feathers when it previously had no feathers. I mean, I don't see the correlation there. I don't understand.
Well, the beak is a separate thing, so they're two separate evolutions. One is that if growing little hairs would make you warmer until you'd be able to survive in colder climates, and if the hairs grew to make them uh, thicker hairs, then that would make sense. And then if you needed them to be light so you could fly, then it would make sense that they would grow to be not heavy kinds of feather, not heavy kinds of fur, so they'd be feathers, because the feathers are hollow. That's why they're light worthy. Then it makes sense that you could go from fur to feathers. This shouldn't be too hard. Like the genetic difference between fur and feathers is not very much.
Yeah, but birds have always had feathers. It's not like birds never didn't have feathers, right? When
No.
did birds?
So their bats don't have feathers.
I wouldn't really consider a bat a bird. I mean,
The Bible does, but that's a separate issue. So birds did not always have feathers. There were lots of bird things that did not have feathers and were just fine. Like
yeah,
pre-dinosaurs,
yeah.
there were no feathers.
Well, I don't believe. Well, I don't believe dinosaurs are birds. I believe dinosaurs are separate. Okay, you believe in evolution, so yeah, you believe that dinosaurs are birds or turned into birds or whatever. But what I'm saying is, when have we ever observed a creature that has previously known to not have feathers, evolve feathers?
Well, again, we don't need to directly observe the stalactite forming in completion. We just need to observe little tiny steps. Little tiny steps. We can say if we observe the tiny steps, then we can infer, yes, if we give this X amount of time, it'll develop the whole thing. Jamie, birds were dinosaurs. They didn't live with dinosaurs. The same thing. So
I don't see.
just like the stalactite and stalagmite, we don't need to observe the entire thing. We just need to observe tiny little steps. If we can observe tiny little genetic changes that have benefits, that's like observing a tiny little particle of a mineral being left by the residue of the water. And we can say logically that if we observe this occurring multiple times in a row, then it will build the entire stalagmite from that. And the same thing applies to evolution. So we don't need to directly observe the entire stalagmite being developed. We only need to observe the thing that causes the thing to build. So in evolution, what causes a one animal that doesn't have feathers to go to an animal that does have feathers is genetic mutation. The difference between those two things is they have different genes. And do we see something that changes the genes? Well, yes, we do. We see mutation. We see that their genes do change over time. And so the genes changing over time is like the minerals being left from the water when it hits the ground. And we can infer, well, if this keeps going on further, well, then it makes sense to say that, yes, the feathered things came from the non-feathered things, just like the stalactite came from the water droplets. Like, since we can literally see the process, the little thing occurring, and we know enough time happened, it's perfectly reasonable to say that yes, these follow because we literally can just infer. We can observe the small changes, and if the small changes happen lots, 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 will eventually get you to a billion.
All right, I have a quote here that I want to read for you. It's from Lynn Margulis. You know who that is?
Nope, it's a platypus
Well,
bird.
she's a very famous evolution biologist. You could Google her, Lynn Margulis.
How do you spell Margulis?
Margulis. First name Lynn, Lynn.
Okay, what's the quote?
Okay, here's the quote. Although random mutations influence the course of evolution, their influence was mainly by loss, alteration, or refinement. Never, however, did that one mutation make a wing, a fruit, a woody stem, or a claw appear. Mutations, in summary, tend to induce sickness, death, or deficiencies. No evidence in the vast literature of heredity change shows unambiguous evidence that random mutation itself, even the geographical isolation of population, leads to speciation. The accumulation of genetic mutations were touted to be enough to change one species to another. No, it wasn't dishonesty. It was wish fulfillment and social momentum. Assumptions made but not verified were taught as fact. I was taught over and over again that accumulation of random mutations lead to evolutionary change, led to new species. I believed it until I looked for evidence. Biology is opening up the black box and demonstrating how organisms develop. We are slowly getting out of a state of ignorance in regard of what mechanisms determine cell shape, blah 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 blah. Basically, she's agreeing with me that if evolution was true, that we should see random mutations producing things such as a wing where there previously wasn't one,
Well, no.
stem,
So
claw.
she's arguing for symbiosis. So she's, in addition to mutation, which she agrees exists, she's saying there is another thing in addition to that that also works. So she's actually agreeing with my position. She's an evolutionary biologist.
How is she agreeing with your position when we haven't observed these things? That's basically what she's saying.
No,
We
she's
have never
saying
observed.
this one thing on its own doesn't work. But my definition of evolution implies all of the different parts. So evo, devo, symbiogenesis, endosymbiosis, it includes all of those. The only thing she's saying is that in evolutionary biology, the particular definition of just random mutation obviously doesn't do everything. It's random mutation plus natural selection and lots of other things, evo, devo, endosymbiosis. I talked about this with several biologists on my channel recently, like a few months ago. There's lots of different parts
Yeah,
to what causes evolution. And in biology, there are very specific terms for all of these. She agrees with everything I said. She agrees because she literally, one of her hypotheses, as I'm reading since I just googled her name, is that chloroplasts evolved from cyanobacteria. So she literally agrees with evolution. So the only thing she's saying there is that in order to get from a non-wing to a wing, you need different combined things of evolution to get there. It's not just evolution. She doesn't believe in intelligent design.
I never said she. I said in the beginning that she was an evolutionary biologist. I never said she supported intelligent design.
Right. So
But what I'm saying is,
her model is
sorry, go ahead.
endosymbiotic theory of evolution. So she has, it's still evolution.
Okay, but natural selection only happens after an organism can only reproduce, right? Natural selection happens after the mutation. So the mutation, in fact, is evolution. You can't have evolution without the mutation, right?
Right. And she agrees with that.
Right. So um, the mutation has to first produce a wing,
No,
right? I don't understand.
the mutation produces a difference. That's it. It's just mutation is random. So most mutations do nothing.
Exactly.
There's the second most common is deleterious, and the third most common is a benefit. The benefit doesn't mean wing; it just means benefit. So anything that can cause a benefit to the lifespan of the animal is an evolutionary benefit. But it doesn't produce wing. It's not like one, as the quote you read said. It's not like one mutation produces wing. Obviously not. That would be ridiculous. What happens is one mutation produces very small changes, and then in addition with other changes can lead to a wing over millions of years.
But okay, you agree that natural selection doesn't produce any new species, right? Mutation does, right?
The combination of both.
No, but mutation selection only weeds these things out after they already exist. Like you agree with that, right?
Well, there's small changes,
All,
and
all
the selection weeds out the less beneficial changes. But the changes don't produce new species just after one generation. There's no like new species after one generation.
no, I'm not talking about no. That's I'm not talking about after one generation. I mean, that's a different issue altogether that I could get into. But I'm just saying that mutation is in fact you can't have evolution without mutation
Sure.
because natural selection only okay. So then okay, let me give an example. Like think about the butterfly, right? How could the process of a caterpillar turning into a butterfly possibly evolve, right? When a caterpillar forms a cocoon, its organs, they all liquefy, they rearrange themselves, they become new tissues. This is like irreducibly complex, right? So how could
No,
evolution would have had to have gotten this right from the very beginning, right?
no. So, for example, do you know what a stone arch is? A stone arch?
Huh?
Do you know what a stone arch is?
Yes.
So a stone arch is where you take a bunch of stones and you put them on top of each other and it builds an arch. Like that's irreducibly complex. If you remove any of the stones, the entire stone arch is going to fall, right?
Right.
But to build that, you don't have to build it perfectly the first time because what you do is you put a bunch of extra stones underneath the arch and then you put the arch stones on top of them, on top of those supporting stones. Then you remove the supporting stones and you have a stone arch. It's not irreducibly or even though the stone arch is irreducibly complex, you didn't have to get it right the first time. What you did is you built a bunch of extra stuff on top of that and then just removed the extra stuff. That's how you get irreducible complexity just fine through natural processes.
Right. Okay, but natural selection couldn't play a part in in the evolution of a butterfly. If you think it can, like, could you please explain?
This the same way as the stone arch thing I just explained. So what happens is there's a bunch of mutations and the beneficial ones continue and the non-beneficial ones don't. They put in a whole bunch of garbage in there that doesn't work. And then the mutations weed out the garbage. So what happens is you have something like a caterpillar, and the caterpillar then builds a cocoon out of like some defense mechanism and then causes mutations which then cause it to survive more like during the winter or whatever. So if you're in a cocoon during a colder season to survive and then the mutations in you during that time period cause you to develop some kind of a uh, uh, different property like more hair or whatever or less hair or whatever, then you come out of the cocoon and reproduce. Well, then your children will have the same property. So the children will have a be a caterpillar, and then when they go to a cocoon for winter, they will then also have this extra new property, and then they will have another mutation. So the mutations, because they can work as
But
stages, you can build two separate organisms or two separate structures that occur at different time periods in your development, just like going from a kid to an adult, or from a turtle or a shelled organism to a non-shelled organism, or from a insects that have hard or fish that have no bones to fish that have bones. Like you can have changes in your structure over time uh, during different life cycles, parts of your life cycle. It shouldn't be too hard.
yeah, but you're the caterpillar doesn't reproduce. Butterflies reproduce, right?
Tadpoles don't reproduce. Frogs reproduce, but they still produce tadpoles.
Right. So it's impossible that you can gradually get from a caterpillar to a butterfly. That's the whole point. You can't have a caterpillar without a butterfly. You can't have a butterfly without a caterpillar. You agree, right?
Uh, no, you can have caterpillars without butterflies just fine because there's lots of different wormed insects that aren't butterflies.
But we're not talking about different insects. We're talking about butterflies and caterpillars, right?
Well, no, because
We're not talking about
butterflies
different.
evolved from those other worms that weren't butterflies.
What evidence do you have for this?
Uh, Evolution.
In the fossil record, huh?
Evolution.
Sorry, go ahead.
So worms existed before butterflies in evolution in the fossil history, like, and butterflies then evolved just like wasps and ants did. So we can see that ants have no wings, and then certain ants evolved wings. Same thing.
I don't see how this is not question begging. I mean, you're basically saying it evolved because we know evolution is true.
Well, no, no.
Uh,
We know evolution is true because we can observe it. Evolution makes testable predictions. So, like if we observe water molecules dropping and leaving crystals on a spot, we can literally observe that occurring. And then we see a big stalactite right next to it, where there's just a bunch of crystals and no water. Like, oh, this created that. It's just how processes work. If we can watch a process right next to a phenomenon, and then we look at the phenomenon, we're like, oh, that produced that because we can literally observe it occurring. It just occurred a lot.
but you haven't explained how in a gradual step-by-step process you get from a caterpillar to a butterfly.
The only difference between a caterpillar and a butterfly is DNA. So if DNA changes, that's how you do it. It's as simple as that. DNA, it's literally no different than a stalactite. Water falls, leaves a mineral, and it builds up over time. Genes, the caterpillar and the DNA are genetically the same. They're the same DNA. And so how you get from a caterpillar to a butterfly is you get a change in the DNA. So if you can find a patterned change in the DNA over time, that's how you do it, because that's the only difference.
Okay, okay. In a caterpillar, right? There are two very distinctive cells. They're called the larval cells and the imaginal cells. You know about those cells?
Well, there's lots of different cells in humans, remember? Neurons, T cells.
No, in the
No,
caterpillar
no,
cell, in the caterpillar.
different cells in different, there are lots of different kinds of cells in every organism.
No, I know that, but I'm that's what I'm saying, that there are two different types of cells in a caterpillar, the larval cells and the imaginal cells. I'm just asking you if you know about them. That's all I'm asking you.
In general, like I know there are lots of different kinds of cells in every organism. They all have different kinds of cells, like the
No, I know
mitochondria.
that, but I'm asking you about these two specific types of cells in the caterpillar.
I
Do
don't
you
I don't
know
know
do you
everything
know
about every kind
everything?
of cell. No,
No, I don't expect you to. That's why I'm asking you if you know. So you basically don't know.
I know about them in
I'll
general.
explain it to you. No, I'm saying I'll explain it to you if you don't know.
Go for it.
That's why
Go
I'm
for it.
asking.
That's fine.
Okay, so in the caterpillar, the larval cells, right? They produce all the organs of the caterpillar. It enables it to function, and the imaginal cells, however, are for the future of the caterpillar and turn into various organs of the butterfly. They turn into things like wings and other parts of the butterfly. Each imaginal cell type turns into a specific organ, right? Now, I'm going to quote Richard Dawkins here. He says evolution has no long-term goal. There is no long-distance target, no final perfection to serve as a criterion for selection, although human vanity cherishes the absurd notion that our species is the final goal. So this is in his book, the Blind Watchmaker. He points out the obvious here, in that evolution has no plan. I'm sure you would agree with that.
Yes.
You understand that? Okay. It doesn't think about the future.
Yep.
Natural selection can only select what is already in existence. Only an intelligent designer can plan for the future. Yet that is what we see in insects like the butterfly. In fact, we see it in all species, but I'm just using the butterfly as a prime example, just to drive home my point. So my question to you: how can a caterpillar have imaginal cells that are reserved for the future if the thing that designed it was an unthinking blind watchmaker, as Dawkins so puts it? If you think you can explain how natural selection played a part, if at first you only have a caterpillar, no butterfly, how does natural selection select the beneficial imaginal cells if the caterpillar never turns into a butterfly? Wouldn't it have to turn into a butterfly first before natural selection could select it?
Nope.
And if that is the case, how could it do this slowly over millions of years? Because your
Because,
butterfly would be
well, it's
dead.
pretty easy. So it's very simple. The cells that
Well, wait,
pre-existed
hold on.
the
Let me just
imaginal.
finish real fast.
What?
Let me just finish real fast.
Okay.
Let me just finish real fast, and I'll let you talk.
Go for it.
Because this is very important. Because a butterfly would be dead in the water if it was missing almost any of its parts. Therefore, it couldn't reproduce. That would be the end of it. Because, for example, just imagine if you had a caterpillar turn into a butterfly with no head. It wouldn't get very far, would it? So what was the first imaginal cell to be selected for and how? Give a hypothetical.
Exactly the same as the stone arch thing I'd listed before. So stone arches, if you remove
None,
any of the stones, the entire thing falls. But you don't build a stone arch with just the stone arch. You add a bunch of extra stones there and then remove the extra stones. So you have a whole bunch of cells, a bunch of different cell types. Some are good, some are bad. You remove the bad ones, you get the exact cells you're looking for. And we know this because those imaginal cells, they're made of the exact same stuff as all of the other cells in the caterpillar. They're just DNA. The only difference is DNA. So if you have some way to change the DNA in those cells in the caterpillar, then imaginal cells are clearly, obviously going to come about because they're the same DNA. So if we found some way to change DNA, that's how you change from one kind of cell to a different kind of cell.
okay, okay, but do you understand? I don't think you understand like what I. What was the first imaginal cell to be selected for? What was the first one?
I have no idea. Any
Oh,
of them could
well,
have been first. So it's not like there wasn't a wing cell first. What happened was there was a imaginal cell that had an effect, and that effect was gradual. So none of the current cells were first. None of them were. There were cells that were prior to the current cells that did different things that were similar, and that's it.
okay, but you're not understanding what I'm saying. How does natural selection play a role in the development of a? How are imaginal cells selected for if the butterfly never formed in the first place? All of the instructions to make a butterfly had to be there from the start.
No, they didn't. So,
Imagine
so
the
that's what
caterpillar.
I'm saying. So
No,
none of the cells in the butterfly were first. None of those came first. There were
well,
other different
listen,
cells. So there were completely different cells. All of those cells that we see today had precursor cells that were completely different. None of them were the same.
imagine if, let's say, just imagine the first caterpillar, right? Say it had no imaginal cells, it would form a chrysalis and die. The end.
No,
Because
again, so
caterpillars
again,
don't
none of the
reproduce.
parts in the current caterpillar were first. None of them came first. They were all different, completely different. The things that were first were a completely different cell that was similar, like a child cell, and then that child cell then get more complicated to the current cell. So there was no first imaginal cell. No,
Which was the first ancestor to have a pupil adult life cycle?
pupa adult lifestyle.
Yeah, which
I
was the
have no
first
idea. It doesn't
ancestor?
matter which one was the first because it's just a one of them.
Well, it doesn't matter because,
No, it's
well,
like
it
saying
doesn't matter because,
which animal came first, the a bird or a cat. Like it's completely separate things. Like it doesn't matter which one came first. It's irrelevant. They
well,
are
it
all
does
a
matter
long
because,
series of things that have many, many precursors. Which one came first? Well, it doesn't matter. None of them came first. It's like they're all an in stage of millions of years of evolution. None of them came first. Like it wasn't like cats didn't come first before dogs. What happened was there was a single-celled organism that came first, and it evolved into both cats and dogs. So the first thing was completely different from anything in the caterpillar. The first imaginal cell had nothing to do with any of the current imaginal cells at all.
so you're basically just saying it evolved because it evolved.
No, it evolved because there are changes in DNA. So we can see the original cells, they're made of DNA. We can see the new cells, they're made of different DNA. That's just a different pattern of the exact same thing. We see a way that the pattern changes through mutation. And so that's how the things that are the exact same, just a different pattern, came about.
But how could there not be a definitive first in a transition from a species where there is no pupa stage to pupa stage? That's my point. It can't be gradual. And you,
Yes, there can. So again, there wasn't a first one of those cells. Those all came about in tandem because of the prior cells that existed.
I don't understand what you're saying. I don't
It's
understand.
not like we have one limb that evolved first. It's like, well, which limb evolved first, the right arm or the left arm? Like, no, they both evolved at the exact same time because they came about from the flippers that both existed at the same time. So you don't have a first thing like that. It's not how it works.
You don't have a first pupil to larva. You don't have that first. I don't understand.
Oh
How
yeah,
how
sure,
do you
sure. There
how do you
should be
ever get
in general a one first pupil animal to another one.
what?
Sure, yes, there was probably one animal that came about that first had a pupa and one that didn't. That's perfectly fine.
And what was this ancestor of the butterfly? What was
We'll
it?
call it Bob. Its name was Bob.
So you basically don't know. It's just a story.
No, it's like I don't need to name it. It's like you can give it any name you want. Like it's not like it has an inherent name. What name would you like it to have?
Wh- uh, I don't. How am I supposed to? How am I going to put this now? How did the caterpillar? Okay, what? How did the first imaginal cells come into existence?
Evolution from other
But how?
cells before imaginal cells. It's like how did the
Yep,
single
yep.
cell how did the single celled algae go to a multicellular algae? Through evolution.
What so did all of the imaginal cells appear at once, or did they appear one by one?
One by one.
So,
What? What? Can you hear me?
did you hear me? Oh, I think you froze up.
I froze. Can you hear me
Oh,
now? Testing, testing.
yeah, I can hear you. You froze up a while ago for a
Okay.
quick second, but my question was, did all of the imaginal cells come into existence at once, or did they come into existence one by one?
They all developed at the same time. They didn't come into existence. So they were all different cells that were precursors that were similar, but none of them were the same. And they all developed into the different imaginal cells separately. But they all evolved at the same time, but they didn't all come into
Well,
existence at the same time.
well, okay. What I'm saying is, let's say you have an imaginal cell that produces the butterfly wing, and then you have a different imaginal cells that produce the head of the butterfly. You're saying that they developed exactly at the same time? Is that what you're saying?
Well, they developed at the same time over millions of years from other cells.
But that's what I'm saying. How is that possible if the caterpillar does not
It's the
reproduce?
exact same way as there are millions of different animals. They all evolved at the same time from before animals that were before them. Like there shouldn't be two.
Yeah, yeah, but you're not answering my question. You keep telling me, giving me this red herring about different animals.
Yes,
I'm
different
asking
cells
you
are like
what's
different
this,
animals. Like all the cells are evolving like different species. There's no difference.
right? But I'm asking you specifically about the caterpillar. I'm
No, no,
asking
no.
you how
All
did.
cells are like different animals. They evolve separately, just like animals evolve separately. No difference.
Okay, but how did you get from the caterpillar to the butterfly if caterpillars
Because
don't
they're the
reproduce,
same
butterflies do?
DNA. If you have any process that causes a change in the DNA, that's how you do it. Because they're all they are is different DNA. That's it. If the only difference is DNA, if you have some way that changes DNA, that's how it happened.
Well, no, the only difference isn't DNA because you have to have butterflies that mate in order to produce a
Wait,
caterpillar.
so
You
what's
have
the
to have a
difference
male and a
between what's the
female
difference?
butterfly.
What do you mean there's
You
some difference other than DNA? The only difference is the DNA. That's literally the only difference.
No, no, no. You see, you're not addressing the problem here. The problem is that you have to have a male and a female butterfly in order to have a caterpillar. You're not telling me how you can have you. You're not telling me how you can have a female and male
No,
butterfly
you don't
if
need
the
that. So
caterpillar.
again, the only difference is DNA. So the only thing you need is a change in DNA. That's literally all you need. It doesn't need to be reproduction. There's different kinds of reproduction. You have sexual reproduction, non-sexual reproduction, asexual reproduction. You don't need a male and a female to have different cells. The cells do not need males and females to reproduce.
Caterpillars produce.
But yeah, you're asking about the
Caterpillars
cells.
don't.
The cells are what you're asking about. The cells do not need a male and
No, no, no.
female.
I'm asking about reproduction here. I'm asking you because the only way that we know caterpillars come into existence is if two butterflies mate.
Yeah, but
We've
the
never
cells
seen
don't.
it. We've never seen anything
The cells
otherwise.
don't come about like just reproduction. The cells come about by cell division, not reproduction, not sexual reproduction. Cells do not have sexual reproduction. Most of them.
Have you ever seen a caterpillar come into existence without a male and female butterfly?
No, but we have seen cells. Cells do that.
I'm not. I don't care about other cells. I'm talking about the caterpillar and the butterfly.
Right. So imaginal
You need
cells.
you
The
need a
imaginal
male.
cells came about without reproduction. You don't need reproduction for those. You don't need sexual reproduction for those.
But
So,
if
so there's
but
two different
if you
things
don't
there.
need.
There's the animal and then the cells. The cells do not require sexual reproduction. The animal as a whole does, but you do not need sexual reproduction for the cells. So how the cells came about is just cellular reproduction. That you don't need sex for that.
Well, these are two different things we're talking about. We're not. I'm not. You're talking about imaginal cells. I'm talking about reproduction.
Okay.
Imaginal cells, you still haven't explained to me. You're just saying that you're basically saying that imaginal cells just came into existence all at once.
No,
Is
like
basically what you're telling me.
stalactites did not just come into existence all at once. What happened is we see a process that literally caused the thing we're seeing, and then we can say, oh, if this happens, that's literally the cause. So if the only difference between the cells is the DNA, and there's a change in the DNA, that's literally the cause. We can literally observe it.
Well, I don't agree with that because if the caterpillar is missing just one imaginal cell, it'll form a chrysalis and die. You haven't explained how it gets past that
Again, I
problem.
already explained that. That's the stone arch example I literally explained. If any stone in the stone arch isn't there, the stone arch falls. But you don't need doesn't matter because it's not built with just the stone arch. It's built with other things first. You do not need a
A
perfect stone
stone
arch.
arch a stone arch isn't alive. A caterpillar is alive.
It
It
doesn't
needs all
matter.
of these parts, otherwise it will die.
It doesn't matter if it's alive or not alive. It's the exact same thing. So
Well, it does matter because if there's a
no,
first caterpillar and it dies, that's it for the caterpillar.
no.
There's no
It
more
doesn't make a
butterflies.
difference because the point here is that what irreducible complexity is can be explained by lots of other things prior to it. You do not need just the parts. You can have lots of other parts in addition to those parts and remove them later on, and that's perfectly fine. You do not need that.
But all of these parts are crucial to the butterfly.
No,
If the cat
again, I've
if
already
any
explained this. Stone arch, all of the parts are crucial. You get rid of the parts, and any stone that's removed causes the whole stone arch to fall. But you don't build a stone arch from just those parts. You add other parts first. And so just like you can add other parts to build a stone arch, you can add other parts to build a caterpillar. None of the parts in a current caterpillar were there originally. They were all other parts first.
right, there are other parts first. But the problem here is that you need to get to a butterfly before you can get to a caterpillar. That's the big. I understand what you're saying about the arch.
Well, no, you caterpillar
The
first,
whole
then
arch.
butterfly. Caterpillar first, then
Huh?
butterfly.
Okay, so you're saying that the caterpillar was first and then the butterfly. I understand that. I understand what you're saying about the arch. Believe me, I understand what you're trying to say, but you're missing the big elephant in the room here, and that's the point that in order to get to a butterfly, the caterpillar has to have all the imaginal cells from the very beginning. Otherwise, the
No, it
caterpillar
doesn't.
does not exist.
No, it doesn't. Again, get rid of. Don't use any more caterpillar or butterfly language. Just say DNA 1, DNA combination 2. That's all you're
Oh
saying. So,
no, I'm not going to do that because now you're okay.
well, that's literally all they are. So when you're saying caterpillar to butterfly, all you're saying is this combination of DNA to this other combination of DNA. Well, how do you go from this combination of DNA to this other combination of DNA? Well, you need some
Well,
process that causes changes in DNA, and we have that. We can literally watch it.
No, we can't watch that because what I'm you're not giving me a step-by-step process here of how the very first caterpillar can survive if it doesn't immediately form a cocoon.
So
Within
how
the
does
first
one
couple.
thing of DNA go to a different thing of DNA? Well, there needs to be a changing process of DNA. Do we have that? Yes, it's called evolution. So that's how it goes from one combination of DNA to a different combination of DNA.
You're just saying it happened because of evolution. You're not explaining how. You're just saying, oh, evolution just happened because evolution
How
is
does
DNA is changing DNA.
how does a thing which is a combination of DNA go to a different thing which is a different combination of DNA? It's a change in DNA. You need a process that changes DNA. If you have a process that changes DNA, that's how it goes from one combination of DNA to a different combination of DNA. It's super simple.
So so you're saying that the imaginal cells that were the, you agree with me that the imaginal cells weren't there from the very beginning, right?
Right. It's
You
just
agree with that, right?
a combination of DNA to a different combination of DNA.
The specific cells, you agree that there are different types of cells. The imaginal cells weren't there from the beginning.
Right.
These specific type of cells, they weren't there from the very beginning, right?
Right. Yes.
So if they weren't there from the very beginning, and it takes a butterfly in order to make a caterpillar, how did the caterpillar come into existence in the first place? Where did that caterpillar come from?
Because one combination of things made of DNA can mutate into a different combination of things made of DNA.
No, but the point that I'm trying to make is the butterfly has to be first, and then the
Nope.
caterpillar.
There just has
What
to be
you're saying
one
is the
combination of
caterpillar has to
DNA.
be first, and then the
No,
butterfly.
It doesn't make a difference. One thing of DNA just mutates to a different thing of DNA. They're all DNA. That's all they are. They're all just DNA.
Well,
So
you can't just mutate it because you have very specific imaginal cells for different parts of the
it's really
future of the
simple.
butterfly.
You have one thing made of DNA, which mutates to a different thing made of the same DNA. That's how you get it. It's just one DNA to a different DNA.
So how did these mutations know what to mutate to in order to make a butterfly?
They're random. They don't need to know anything.
But if they're random, how did they select the right imaginal cells in the first place?
Because they're just different combinations of DNA, and some survive better than others.
But no, but they had to have survived from the very beginning. Otherwise, the very first caterpillar would be dead.
No, all you need is DNA to
Right?
survive. DNA survives from the very beginning, and then the DNA changes over time.
If let's say, for example, you have a caterpillar and then it mutates. Let's just say there's a caterpillar appeared out of nowhere. I don't know where it came from. You haven't told me, but I'm gonna let that go. Let's just say you just have this caterpillar, right? And it hasn't turned into a butterfly yet, but then it just suddenly mutates.
Sure.
But it mutates, and some of the imaginal cells appear, but some doesn't.
No.
Right?
Mutations
It'll
don't
form a
pop
chrysalis.
cells into existence just like they don't pop wings into existence. Mutations are little tiny changes. So to get new imaginal cells would take millions of years.
But if it takes millions of years, that very first caterpillar would die because it'd have to
No,
reproduce.
because there's lots of other things in the process do those millions of years. It's not like it's like one mutation that causes a new imaginal cell. What it does is there's one mutation that causes a slightly different cell, which then makes a slightly different cell, which then makes a slightly different cell, which then leads to an imaginal cell after millions of years. So, like I said, this is the stone arch thing. You build the stone arch based off of lots of things before it that were not it, and then you remove those things. So if you have one cell that mutates into a slightly different cell, which isn't an imaginal cell, and then a slightly different cell, which isn't an imaginal cell, and then a slightly different cell, and you keep going through that process, you will get an imaginal cell built on other things which were not imaginal cells.
This doesn't make any sense because how you're still not explaining how does the first caterpillar survive? How does
Because
it
all of those
survive?
other cells are keeping it alive before any of the imaginal cells did.
I don't understand.
Okay, so in the algae example, we see a single cellular organism go to a multicellular organism. The single cellular organism was keeping itself alive just fine with single cells. And then it mutated into a completely different thing where there wasn't the single cells anymore. It has multicellulars. So it started with this one thing, which was a building block. And on that building block, it built a different thing, which was an irreducibly complex structure. But that irreducibly complex structure wasn't there first. The first was this one thing. And then that one thing was built on top of, and then you removed that one thing, and now you have an irreducibly complex structure. The same thing applies to the imaginal cells. You have a bunch of regular cells first, and then the regular cells mutate into the imaginal cells, and those imaginal cells are reproducing, and so they don't produce the regular cells anymore, so the regular cells are gone. You had the regular cells, and on top of those were built the other cells, and then the regular cells were gone. That's how the stone arch thing works. You build the stone arch based off of things underneath it, then you remove the things underneath it to leave the irreducibly complex structure.
All right, let me put this a different way. Let me try and put this a different way. Okay, without both the male and female butterflies, they both have to have fully developed reproductive organs. You don't have butterfly eggs. Without butterfly eggs, you don't have caterpillars. Without caterpillars, you don't have cocoons. All of these things had to come about at the same time because
No,
of this.
no, again, you don't need
Because,
that.
oh, well, can I finish?
Okay, sure.
Thank you. Um, if this wasn't just the reproductive organs that formed in days as opposed to millions of years, but it's also wing veins with fluid that pumped into their wings to make them unfold and then back out and to make them light. Butterflies have joint legs, with muscles, nerves connected in just the right places, right? So that a newly formed creature can stand up and walk. Um, so what I'm saying is, you know what? Let me give you a quote that I like here. This quote is from an evolutionist. No stage or aspect of this physical process can be accounted for, even guessed at with our current knowledge of chemistry, physics, genetics, or molecular biology, extensive though they are. It is completely beyond us. We know practically nothing about the plan or program governing the metamorphosis or organizing agency behind this plan. In other words, what they're saying is that the evidence strongly suggests that these creatures were programmed
No, that's not
to
what it means.
trans.
So it's like if you look at a chessboard that's 50 moves in, uh, could you tell what the first move was?
What?
If you look at it, you play chess at all?
No.
Do you know what chess is at least?
Yeah.
So if on a chessboard, if you look at a game that's been going on for like an hour and there's lots of been moves made, could you just look at the game and know what the first move was?
No. Probably not.
Exactly. So there's no way you could just look at the game and be like, ah, the first move was this, because there's so many different combinations that could have led to that point. The same. That's exactly what that quote is saying that you read. There's no way we can look at the completed structure of a cell and know which move came first. We have no idea. They could have all. The order is totally random. We have no idea which one could have come in first just by looking at the
That
end
is
game.
exactly the point. That is exactly the point that I'm trying to make that you're not understanding. If this is all a random process, let's just say there's a first caterpillar. It appeared out of nowhere. There's a first caterpillar. You're telling me that its DNA changes or its DNA somehow keeps it alive. I still don't understand what you mean by that, by its DNA is keeping it alive. Because as far as I know, you can't have a caterpillar in the first place without two butterflies. So you have to explain to me first, how did the first caterpillar come into existence?
Caterpillars
Because we've
existed
never
before
seen.
butterflies. So you have two caterpillars that are alive just fine with no butterflies. No butterflies. They
So
reproduced without the butterflies. They lost. So like if you have two caterpillars that can reproduce on their own, no butterflies involved, and then they become butterflies, and then the caterpillars lose their ability to reproduce, then you can only have those kinds of caterpillars after butterflies. But before the butterflies, they reproduced just fine with no butterflies because they had reproductive organs before the butterflies. Does that make sense? So you have two caterpillars that can reproduce that don't ever turn into butterflies. And then they gain the ability to turn into butterflies. And once they have that ability, they then lose the ability to reproduce as caterpillars. So that's the stone arch thing. You start with stones on the bottom, then you build up to give an irreducibly complex structure, and then you remove the stones on the bottom. So caterpillars can reproduce on their own, no butterflies. They then become butterflies to build on top of it, and then you remove the stones at the bottom, and they can't reproduce as caterpillars.
so wait a minute. So wait a minute. So you're saying that there's two um caterpillars, proto caterpillars. Uh, First of all, we have no evidence of such caterpillars, but let's just
Yeah, we
say
do
they did
actually. We
exist.
get tons of those. We do have actually evidence, but yes,
Well, actually, we don't because the fossil record says differently. But that's besides the point. Um,
we have evidence of it
First of all,
today. That we can just look at the DNA today and compare it to the things to know how it evolved. Then we do have evidence of that. But yeah, it's a
what?
different point. So keep going.
Um, what was I about to say?
So yes, there are two caterpillars that could reproduce on their own without ever becoming butterflies, and never became butterflies.
Okay, so you're saying that two caterpillars mated, even though they don't have reproductive organs,
No,
right?
no, they
These
they
caterpillars,
did they did have reproductive organs. So there were
they did,
caterpillars that had
and then
reproductive
they lost
organs.
them.
Yes, so there were caterpillars that had reproductive organs and they reproduced, and then the new caterpillars had the ability to have butterflies. So then they could reproduce as caterpillars and they could reproduce as butterflies. And then there was another evolution where there's the caterpillars lost their reproductive organs so they could only reproduce as butterflies. So there's a stage of two caterpillars that could reproduce on their own, never became butterflies. Then the caterpillars became butterflies and could reproduce as caterpillars or butterflies. And then the caterpillars lost their ability to reproduce, and you have them become caterpillars to butterflies, and they can only reproduce as butterflies.
Oh my God, there are so many problems with this. Okay, so you have two caterpillars, right? Two imaginary proto caterpillars, right? And they had reproductive organisms, right? And
Yes.
they were going along about their business, reproducing, producing more caterpillars, right?
Yes.
Basically, right? And then all of a sudden, one day, a mutation occurred in one of these caterpillars. Let's just say the male caterpillar, right? Which produced one imaginal cell. Let's just say the imaginal cell.
No, no. So
Or
no. So they what started was the cocoons came first, and after they did cocoons, usually just to stay alive because of winter. Then they had other mutations like producing.
wait a minute. You just said that it formed a cocoon because it needs to stay alive during winter?
Yeah, cocoons had benefits before it turned into a butterfly. So the cocoon, they could just crawl out of
So,
the cocoon out of after winter or whatever, just as a caterpillar. So there were
wait a
caterpillars
minute.
that
Wait a
made
minute. So
cocoons, then just crawled out of the cocoons.
how did the caterpillar discover this amazing ability to make a cocoon? Because it needs to survive the winter.
Uh, Random
All,
mutation.
all random mutation.
Yeah, so it randomly mutated an
So
ability to produce.
random mutation knew to make a cocoon. I don't
No,
understand.
random mutation caused a whole bunch of different caterpillars, and the ones that produced cocoons survived longer. So there were a bunch of lots and lots of different kinds of caterpillars from lots and lots of different kinds of mutations. The bad mutations died,
But
and the
why
good
a
mutations
cocoon?
survived.
But why a cocoon?
Because that was the mutation that caused it to live longer.
No, 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 no. But natural selection would. I don't understand. Why would a mutation know to call to bring about a cocoon? I don't
It
understand.
doesn't. It just causes a new
Why
kind
not
of
something
cell.
else?
So it causes
Huh?
a new kind of cell. A new kind of cell causes some kind of effect inside of the caterpillar, which causes it to survive longer. And then that kind of cell multiplies into a bigger kind of a cell. And that bigger kind of a cell has a new process. And that new process is then added to the caterpillar's abilities. So the mutations only cause small changes to the cells. And the small changes to the cells can then cause larger changes to the overall organism. So it didn't start with a cocoon. It started with just a new cell, which had a new function, and then it had more of those cells, which produces a bigger function like producing silk, and then the silk caused it to, you could just cover yourself in silk, make a cocoon. So it's just a single cellular change, which then built up in the organism over time.
Uh, there are numerous problems with this because there are caterpillars that live all over the world in warm places and cold places. I don't understand why a mutation would all of a sudden out of nowhere bring about a change in a cell that eventually leads to a cocoon. And how would the caterpillar even know to build such a cocoon in the first place?
Well, again, so the winter example was just an example. It could apply for, there are many different benefits of a cocoon. But if there is any random mutation that causes a small change in DNA, and that change then is beneficial to the lifespan of the animal, then it's going to produce more of those cells because it helps it to survive. And if those cells can then cause a new function like producing silk or whatever, then it's going to produce silk. And if that silk can then be used by the organism to keep it warm, as one example, it's going to use it to keep it warm and produce a
Yeah,
cocoon.
yeah, but the problem here is you're giving agency, thought powers to a mutation. You're saying that the
No,
mutation,
no. So
uh,
again,
uh, co-
if you mutate in every single direction, so say you have a north, south, east, and west, and then you have a mutation that goes in every direction, and the south one dies, and the west one dies, and the east one dies. Well, then there's just a north, and then everyone from that north goes, and so you go south one, east one, west one, north one, and all of the ones that go on the other directions die again. Well, now you have a mutation that's 2 in the north direction, and then 3 in the north direction, and 4 in the north direction. So it didn't plan anything. It went in every direction, and all of the directions except one died. That's how it happened. There was no planning here. It's just they mutate in every direction, in every possible change, and then all of them die except one.
so you're saying that this mutation happened in a bunch of different butterflies. I mean, caterpillars, not just one caterpillar. That somehow
Uh,
somehow this mutation not only happened once, but a bunch of different times. In order for a few caterpillars to survive. That's basically what you're saying,
no, there
right?
was a caterpillar that had this change, and this caterpillar reproduced with other caterpillars that didn't have the change, and then there were multiple caterpillars that had this change.
So
So like there was 2 caterpillars, none of them had a cocoon, and then one caterpillar developed the cells that can produce a cocoon, and it reproduced with other caterpillars that didn't. and then their kids had this cell, and so now there's multiple caterpillars that can build cocoons.
So you're saying that basically like these mutations like spread through a population and basically it became fixed. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, fixed. I don't know what you mean by fixed, but yes, I think so.
They stayed in fixed, like they stayed in the population, like they spread throughout the population
Yeah, so
and
because it kept the caterpillars alive, the caterpillars who had this mutation survived longer and reproduced more. Then there became more and more of these caterpillars that had this and less that didn't, and so it became fixed in the population. Yes.
well, what evidence do you have for this?
Well, again, we can observe that occurring in today's evolution, like with the algae examples. That's what the same thing we observe occurring.
But an algae is not a caterpillar. So I mean,
It's
I mean,
again,
I
it's the
don't
same
understand.
process. So if we see how did this pattern of DNA change to this different pattern of DNA, well, there needs to be a process that changes the DNA. Like here's an article that somebody posted in the chat. How did insect metamorphosis evolve? Scientific America. So it goes through exactly just saying pretty much what I'm saying, just better.
I think I've read that article, and I've also read plenty of refutations of that article. But that's besides the
Well, there's
point.
definitely not plenty because again, this is the consensus among 99% of biologists everywhere, and all pretty much professional biologists conclude this is correct everywhere in the world. So there's not really a lot of refutations of it.
Well, no, that's not true because I know a lot of biologists that would disagree. So no, I don't agree with that. And
No,
even if that's the
the
case, I mean, you're
consensus
gonna peel.
the consensus is the what everyone in the field everywhere in the world has concluded. And it doesn't really matter if there's a couple
Well,
people who
there's
disagree.
there's no field in which everybody agrees on a certain thing, right? There's always going to be people who don't agree. I mean,
Well,
you're
you
you're
don't need
now you're
literally
appealing
everyone. The consensus means the vast majority of experts. You don't need literally every single human being to agree for the consensus.
Yeah, but just because there's a consensus on something doesn't make it true. I mean, people have biases. I mean, there's all sorts of things that goes into why a
No,
person
no,
would say that they
consensus is
believe
what
in
filters
something.
out the bias. So the consensus shows there isn't a bias in today's science.
No, consensus doesn't filter out a bias because human
It
beings
does.
are biased. Everybody, all of us are biased. I'm
No, no, no.
biased.
So
You're
the
biased.
consensus is how you filter out all personal biases. So the consensus is here's what actually works to make predictions in the field. Our biases make no difference anymore.
I
That's
don't
why
see
it's
how that
consensus.
follows. How does it follow that because there's a consensus that filters out bias?
Because every
The
individual has different
consensus itself could
biases.
be biased.
No, the consensus could not be biased if it's based off of
Of
empirical
course it could.
evidence. No. That's kind of the point. So the consensus is here is the empirical data that cannot be refuted, that this is what we have to agree upon. So like every different scientist has their own theory of what they think is correct. And they all want everyone else's theory to be wrong. So every scientist hates every other scientist's theory. Their idea should be wrong. My idea should be right. And so the consensus is the idea somebody had an idea that they couldn't prove wrong. Because every time you publish a paper, every other scientist is like, we're going to prove that wrong because I want my theory to be right and I want you to be wrong. So if there's a consensus, that means that one of those theories, some scientists publish a paper, and every other scientist tried to destroy it as hard as they could because they hate it, because their bias is against it, and they couldn't. And because they couldn't,
But that's the
they had to
point. But
give
that's
up
the
their
point. What I'm
bias.
trying. Yes, but that's the point that I'm trying to make. If the bias is for evolution, not against it, then of course most biologists
No, no, no.
are
Again,
going to
again,
agree that it happened.
no, no, it can't be. Again, so every scientist has their idea, and they want to be right, and they want the other scientists to be wrong. So every single paper published, all of the other scientists who didn't publish the paper are going to try to destroy it. They hate it. Their bias is against the paper. For every published paper, the bias is that is wrong. We hate that. We want that to be destroyed. And the one that's adopted by the consensus is the one that no one can destroy. It's so good that every other bias loses to it. So all of their other biases are filtered out, and the correct one is lifted up.
I could understand if scientists disagree with a certain paper, but but I'm not talking about just the paper. I'm
No, I mean
talking about the
every single
evolution of
paper,
the.
every single progress. All scientists hate it. All scientists hate it when another scientist makes progress. They want to destroy that progress that the other scientist made. For every paper, every progress in every field,
I
every
I
other
don't know.
scientist
I
is
don't
like, we're
agree.
going to
I don't
destroy it.
agree.
Well,
I don't agree with that.
this is the point of peer review. This is the definition of peer review: is that you have people who say that is wrong, my idea is right, I'm going to destroy that. And if you can't, that's progress in science. The
Well,
consensus are the positions. Yeah,
I
go
don't
ahead.
agree with that. I don't agree with every scientist is out there looking to just destroy every paper, because I don't agree with that.
That's literally what science
Scientists
is. That
scientists
is
support other
everything in
scientists.
science.
Huh?
That is literally everything in science.
I don't
That is the
agree
whole
with that.
point.
Scientists support other scientists all the time, especially if they come up with, let's say, a theory that they strongly wish to believe in.
No, that doesn't
For
happen.
example, let's say, huh?
That doesn't happen. Again, how you get famous in science is by proving other people wrong. That's the whole point. How you get money, how you get famous in science is by proving everyone else is wrong. The whole point of science is to prove other people wrong.
That's just one of the ways. Well, that's just one of the ways you get famous in science.
No, that is the way. Like Einstein got famous by proving Newton wrong. Uh, that's the whole point of science is to say everyone else is wrong and I'm right. That is why people do science. It's like a sport. Like if you want to be the best basketball player, you got to defeat the guy who is currently the best. So that's science works the exact same way. Science is competitive. It's like I want my theory to be accepted by everybody. And to do that, I have to defeat the other guy's theory. I have to make a better theory than his theory.
But that doesn't mean consensus is right.
It means it's the most likely to be right. So you don't need anything with certainty. It's the one that filters
Well,
out the
no, it's not
biases.
the most likely to be right, because I could point out a dozen examples where the consensus was very wrong.
That doesn't make a difference. It's still more likely to be right. So if 90% of the time consensus is right and everything else is wrong 98% of the time, then the consensus is the most likely to be right.
Well, then I can just say throughout the history of the earth, the consensus has been that God exists, and it has always been that way. Therefore, God exists. Would you accept that,
Well,
or
that's
are
not a
you going to
consensus.
appeal to?
So consensus
Or,
is the
well, that
experts
is a
in the
consensus.
field that have empirical evidence to verify their conclusion. So there wasn't a consensus God existed.
But they don't have empirical evidence for butterfly. This is just storytelling, and you're saying that because
No, no,
most
we do. We
scientists
do. We have
accept
tons.
this
We have tons of
story.
empirical evidence. So I literally just pulled up a paper from somebody in the chat. The How Did Insect Metamorphosis Evolve by Ferris Jabir, August 10th, 2012. Yes, we do have empirical evidence.
What? Because there's a paper, therefore it shows empirical evidence.
Well,
I don't
the
understand.
paper includes the evidence.
What evidence what empirical evidence does the paper have?
You could read it if you want.
You didn't read it. You just brought it up, and
Metamorphosis
you're
is a
just
truly
saying
bizarre
that it has it.
process, but an explanation of its evolution does not require unsubstantiated theories. By combining evidence from the fossil record with studies on insects' autonomy, we can develop, and biologists have established a narrative about the origin of insect metamorphosis, which they can continue to revise as new information surfaces.
Well, you read that really fast, but I heard a couple of suspicious words in there.
Okay.
Narrative. Um. What do they mean by narrative? A story, right?
Well, yes, that's literally, you have to tell the story of how something occurred. So, like, there's a narrative of anything that literally occurred. That doesn't mean it's
Yeah.
made
So
up.
they're basically I understand what you're saying, but they're basically telling a story.
No,
I
no,
mean, they don't
history
have
is a
no
narrative.
empirical
It's
evidence.
still fact. So narrative does not mean not fact.
It's fact because it's a fact.
No, no, narrative does not mean not fact. Anything that is a series of events is a narrative, even if they're all factual.
Right. But I mean, they don't have any empirical evidence to go with
No, we
that.
do have
They're just
lots
giving
and
a
lots of
narrative
empirical
of what they
evidence.
think
The
happened.
DNA is empirical evidence. We can observe the DNA. We have empirical evidence.
You're just saying it's empirical evidence is DNA because it's DNA. I mean, I don't
No, no,
understand how this
DNA
not
is
question begging.
literally something we can see. Because we can see it, it's empirical.
Yeah, but we have you. Yeah, but we observe DNA, but we don't observe evolution, right? We don't
That
even
changes in DNA is evolution. We do observe evolution.
if you're going to define just changes in DNA as evolution, then everybody believes in evolution, right?
Yes, that's how all evolutionary biologists define evolution.
But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about massive changes which produce things that
No,
the
no,
animal.
everyone in biology defines evolution as just changes in DNA. That's all evolution is. Everyone in all of the scientific fields says evolution is changes in DNA. That's it. That's all evolution is. So if that happens, all evolution is true.
I don't know about that because I know people that define it differently. But
Who defines it
that's
differently?
besides the point that I'm. But that's besides the point that I'm trying to make. The point that I'm trying to make is I'm asking you specifically about the caterpillar, and you're telling me about different DNA in different creatures. This
Yes,
is
those are the
like
same thing.
Reddit. How
The
is that what I'm hearing?
caterpillar is made of DNA. So if there are changes in DNA, that explains the changes in the caterpillar too, because it's also DNA.
Yeah, but that's assuming that these just happened in the butterfly, right?
What? You cut out.
That's assuming that the same changes happened in the butterfly.
Yes, because we can
I
look
mean, in
at the
the
butterfly
caterpillar.
today and see the DNA and see it change today. Yes, it's literally the same.
Well, we don't see it change today, right? We don't see
Yes,
the
yes, we do.
change in the butterfly today, right? What
We
changes
see
do we see?
we see DNA change all the time in every species. It always changes. There is literally a coefficient of how much DNA changes in every
But
species.
it's always the same creature. It doesn't turn into a different creature.
No, the DNA is the only thing that matters. So one creature and a different creature, the only difference is the DNA. So if
No,
the DNA changes, that's it.
the DNA is not all that matters because you can change DNA as much as you want. You're not gonna change DNA and it's gonna change and all of a sudden a feather is gonna appear.
That's
You
literally what
can change it.
happens. That's literally what happens. You change the
That is
DNA
not
and
what
a feather
happens.
appears.
When has an experiment ever showed this? When?
Because
Not
a
an
feather
experiment.
is this combination of DNA, not feathers are this combination of DNA. That means that if you change this DNA to this DNA, you get feathers.
And when has this been observed? Is what I'm asking you. I mean, you're telling me
So,
more
so,
stories.
so we can observe the DNA of the feathers, and we can observe the DNA of the not feathers. So literally, just by logic, if you change the not feathers DNA
So
combination into the feathers DNA combination, you get feathers.
that doesn't make any sense. I don't understand what you're saying. You're saying that first. You're saying that there are creatures without feathers and that there are creatures with feathers, and I don't understand.
So if you have a computer with Microsoft and you look at the coding and you say, well, this is what a Microsoft code looks like, and you look at a computer with Windows or Apple and you say, well, a computer with this program has Apple. If you change the program from Microsoft to Apple, you have an Apple computer, right?
I, can you explain that again? Because
Yeah. So
I wonder if
so Windows a Windows computer is a computer that has a particular programming code, and an Apple computer is a computer that has a different programming code, but they're both programming codes, right?
right.
And so if you change the Windows programming code to the Apple programming code, what will the computer be?
If you change the Windows programming code to an Apple programming code, it'll be a Windows computer with Apple programming.
Okay, so Windows is just the program. So if you remove the Windows program, it's just a computer. It's not a Windows computer, it's just a computer, right? So the code makes it a Windows computer. So if you change the code from the Windows code to the Apple code, it would be an Apple computer, right?
You could say that, yeah.
So if you have an animal that has a particular genetic code and you change that genetic code to a different animal's genetic code, then this animal is going to be that animal, right?
But this okay, I understand what you're saying, but you see, this is the problem here because Windows doesn't naturally produce Apple code. Somebody has to put that
Right,
Apple
right.
code in
So
there.
there got to be some
Windows
kind of a process somewhere that, like, if the code was being affected by change somehow, something that randomly changed the code, and every time it was more similar to an Apple code, that code was kept, and all of the other changes were gotten rid of. And so every kind of random change that made it more like Apple code was kept. Then over a long period of time, it would get closer and closer to an Apple code until it became an Apple computer, right?
right, but the change in the code is doesn't produce a new keyboard, for example. I don't understand what you're saying.
We're just talking about the code here, so not the keyboard. We're just talking about the code. So if you have a computer and it's a Windows computer and there's some process that randomly changes the code, we have no idea what it's doing, it's just completely random. Then if one of those random changes happens to make it really similar to an Apple change, and it keeps that. It doesn't let that change anymore. It just keeps that one. And then every time that it gets something similar, it keeps that similarity. And every time it's something different, well, that one can change randomly too. Eventually, this code is going to get closer and closer to an Apple computer until it becomes the Apple programming. Right?
Okay, there's a how am I gonna put this now? Because I mean, I see what you're trying to say, but what you're saying is not making any type of sense because it's like it's almost like you're comparing apples and oranges, to be honest.
Okay, so to explain how that doesn't work, so we have a Windows computer. There are a bunch of random changes to the code, and anything like an Apple code is
Well,
kept. How does it? How would it
well,
not? Would it or
besides
would
the
it
issue
not?
of besides the issue of what random mutations does usually does to codes, besides that issue, there's the issue of it doesn't matter. Okay, let's say what was the example you gave before? Before the computer. What was the example? What were you trying to tell me before? Can you repeat that?
Which example? The Stone Arch?
No, no. Right before you talked about computers, what were you saying right before then?
I have no idea.
Uh, you said
Let's just go with that example. So if we have a Windows computer and we have an Apple computer, and we want to ask, well, how did a Windows computer become an Apple computer? We're going to need some kind of a process. We got to discover some kind of a process that changes the code in the
y-
Windows computer. So if we
yeah,
discover
but
there's this random number generator that changes the code at random, and it keeps anything that is like an Apple computer, but gets rid of anything that isn't, would that make sense to say, well, this is how it changed from a Windows computer to an Apple computer?
y- y- the problem here is that you need an intelligent person to do that. I mean, a random mutation isn't. I mean, a random mutation in the computer system isn't going to do that. I mean, you need an intelligent person to come in and change the system, right? I mean,
Well,
it
no, no.
doesn't
So,
just
so
happen,
saying so,
right?
there's no intelligence involved. No one, except for like Bill Gates who designed Windows and Steve Jobs who designed Apple. We get rid of all the intelligent designs. We just see there is this a computer and there is some process in it that randomly changes code. It's like a bad program or whatever. It's just broken. And those changes happen to keep anything that looks like an Apple computer, just randomly. That would explain how it went from an Apple to from a Windows to an Apple, right?
Um, I'll accept that.
Okay, so if we see an organism that is one kind of a DNA thing, and we see a different organism that is a different kind of a DNA thing, and we have a process that changes the DNA, just like the Windows program, wouldn't it make sense to say that that organism can evolve into the next organism for the exact same reason, since it's the same thing?
No, because you're missing the point that I'm trying to make. Changing the DNA does not change the creature in such a way where it's going to produce a
Forget
new
the
wing.
creature. Go
It
back,
might.
find out how it's different. So if it's possible for a Windows programming to have a random generator that changes it to an Apple programming, and it's possible to have a DNA programming that changes it from one combination of DNA to a different combination of DNA. How are those different?
I'm sorry. Repeat that.
So we have a Windows computer with a random number generator that changes the code, and it can change to an Apple computer. And you said that makes sense. So we have one combination of DNA that has a random generator that changes the DNA. That could change to a different combination of DNA, right?
Um. Oh, I'll just accept it for argument's sake.
Okay, so if we have two organisms, a bacteria and a butterfly, and they're just different combinations of DNA, then it's just as reasonable to say that the bacteria could go to the butterfly through the genetic change as if you could go from Windows to Apple through random change.
But that's assuming that change. But that once again, you're assuming that changing the DNA thereby produces new novel features in a creature. That's basically what you're assuming.
Well, we've already proven that. That's the algae example I gave earlier. If we can see a single-celled organism
Well,
going to a multicellular organism, that's a new feature. We've proven it.
well,
We've proven it does that.
I'd have to read that paper, but I'm pretty sure that these are colonies. But what
We've
I'm
proven this
saying
in
is,
literally dozens of different experiments that you can get new features from random changes in DNA. We've literally proven that the cultures of there's some bacteria that has a new ability to produce vitamin C or something. That was another example off the top of my head. We've seen it in all kinds of examples. We know that genetic mutations can produce new features all the time. We've literally observed that in a lab directly.
I think you don't understand what I say by new features. When I say new features, I mean something. I mean, let's okay. Let me put a body part. a specific body part that the creature never had before that it now all of a sudden has. Let's say a horse developed wings, for example. That's what I mean.
Vestigial limbs. We know that genetic mutations can cause extra limbs to grow.
Extra limbs,
Yes.
like if I was to grow, I mean, like if I was to grow 4 arms.
Yeah, we've seen genetic mutations that do that all the time.
Okay, okay, I agree with that, but that's what I'm saying. I humans already have arms, right? We are arms. If we grow an extra arm, fine, right? But I'm talking about a body part which the creature is not known to previously ever
Okay,
have,
what is the difference between an animal that has a wing and an animal that doesn't
because
have a
it
wing?
already has
No, no,
the
no.
genetic instructions.
What's the difference between an animal with a wing and an animal without a wing?
One of them has the genes to produce a wing, and one of them doesn't.
And so one of them has a different pattern in DNA than the other one, but they both have DNA already, right?
Of course.
So that goes back to my example that I gave before. If you have a combination of DNA and you have a way to change that randomly, then it could produce the new combination of DNA.
Can you go into a horse and change up his DNA and produce a wing?
Yes, if you could genetically manipulate it enough, yes.
Have you ever seen that happen?
We don't need to see it happen. All we know is wings are this DNA, horses are this DNA. If you change this
No, no,
DNA to
no,
that
but
one,
you see, you're assuming that there's no limit to change, right? You're assuming that change goes on forever, that there's no limit.
no,
That's basically what you're saying.
no.
I'm saying that there's a limit in change. That's why you can't keep changing a horse's DNA. You can't keep manipulating a horse's DNA and it's going to produce a wing because there are limits in change.
Well, no. Again, so we know that like a combination of genes, ATCG, could be flipped to any other combination of ATCG. Literally, there's not the limit is the
Right, right, but
ATCG.
it also has to have new information in order to produce a new novel feature. You
No,
can't just rearrange.
information is just the physical ordering of the ATCG. There's no information there. It's a physical. It's like saying a magnet, the positive end of a magnet goes to a negative end of a magnet. There's no information there. The information is a word we use for the pattern. That's it. So the pattern is the information. So there's no new information. It's just a different combination of ATCG.
No, 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 no. But what I'm saying is you have to have new information in the genome, right?
No, no. Again, there is no information in a magnet. Like magnets have a positive end and a negative end, and the
Wait a
positive end
minute.
attaches to the negative end, right?
Wait a minute. Are you saying that there's no information in DNA? Is that what you're telling me?
Not in the way you're using it. No, there is uh, Shannon information, but Shannon information applies to everything. So, like a magnet has Shannon information. Magnets have information. Crystals have information. Black holes have information. Information applies to any physical system. So, the information in DNA is like
Oh,
the
the
information in a
information.
magnet. There's a positive
I,
end and a negative end, and they attach.
okay, the information. Okay, I'm talking about an information system which contains an encoding and decoding mechanism.
You're talking about
That's the type
abstract
of.
information, right? Like the word English has information in it because it's about a
Yes,
language. There is no abstract
it has
information
meaning.
in
It has
DNA.
meaning.
Yes,
It has
there is
meaning.
no abstract information in DNA. The only thing that's in DNA is the physical shape.
What I don't understand. What do you mean by just there's just so there's no coded information in DNA. There's no digital coded information in DNA.
In biology, that just means the physical shape. So there's no information, there's no abstract information in DNA, none whatsoever. It's just a physical shape. So it's like saying that the rock is shaped like a W or whatever. If you drop the rock in a sand, it'll leave an impression of a W. There is no information in the rock. It's just the physical shape. That's it. So there's a difference between information which is just determined by a physical system, and there's information that's an abstract language like an English-based language. Those are two separate things. The the information in biology is just the physical shape. That's it. So it's like a magnet. You have a positive end of a magnet and a negative end of a magnet, and the positive end attaches to the negative end. In DNA, it's the exact same thing. There is a physical shape of DNA, and it attaches to a different physical shape of DNA. There's no abstract anything in there. It's just physical shapes attaching to other physical shapes, like magnets attaching to other ends of magnets.
I want to read a little quote here for you from Paul Davies. Here he reinforces the point that obtaining the
we
building
can skip
block.
this because every single biologist agrees with me. We're done. Every quote. So I can just
Well,
quote
no,
every single biologist. They all agree with me.
Well, no, they don't, because I'm gonna read you some quotes from biologists right now,
They
including
all
Richard
agree with me.
Dawkins.
So again, this is every single biologist agrees with what in general what I just said.
Well,
The entire field,
well,
everyone
well,
in the field, everyone in every academic field says,
well,
yeah, the information is
I'm gonna
just.
prove, but I can prove to you by reading quotes here that they don't
Those
agree
are
with
called
you. And
quote mines. So they
I have quotes.
we can skip the quotes because they all agree with me. Every single one of them agrees with me. They all
No,
agree that
no,
intelligent design is wrong and that information is just a physical system in DNA. That's the whole point.
so
Every one of them agrees with it. This is the entire field.
okay, so
I can just quote the entire field and say they all say you're wrong. So
all
you're just
right,
wasting
okay,
time with the quotes.
okay. Well, I have the quotes right in front of me,
No,
so
that
you're gonna
doesn't
let
help
me
you
read
because
them.
again, the entire field says you're wrong. So it doesn't matter what your quote mines are. The entire field says you're wrong.
If my quotes disagree with you, that would mean you're wrong, right?
Well, no, it means you've quote mined them and you don't understand what they mean.
No, I'm not gonna quote mine them. I have the entire quote.
That's
I have the
still a quote
entire
mine.
quote. I'm
So
not gonna quote
again,
mine them.
the entire field says you're wrong. So no matter
I
how
can
many
give you
quotes you
the
provide, they
page.
all say you're wrong.
No, they don't say I'm wrong.
They
I have
do.
peer-reviewed
Again, it
papers.
does not help you. Again, the entire field, everyone in the field, every academic paper says you're wrong. Your quotes don't
Every
help.
academic paper says that DNA contains digital encoded information.
No, it says it contains
That's what
physical
every
information.
academic paper says.
No. Again,
Huh?
that's you not understanding the difference between human abstract information and Shannon physical information. They all agree the only thing in DNA is the shape. That's it. Every single one of them.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna read a quote from Richard Dawkins here. I'll give you the page number, the book, everything. I'm gonna read you a quote here, what he says.
Okay, and I'm going to
Let
repeat
me
the
read this
exact
quote.
same thing, which proves I'm right.
You're gonna repeat the same thing if you want, but this quote refutes what you just said.
Nope, I'm going to say you quote minded it. You didn't understand it. Everyone in the field says I'm right. Again, the whole field, everyone in biology, everywhere in the world, all agrees with me. Is just the physical shape.
Well, obviously Richard Dawkins doesn't agree
Nope,
with you,
you
and
don't
some
understand
other.
it. So go ahead, read it, and I'll show you how you don't understand it, as usual.
All right, here it is. Richard Dawkins in his book, A Darwinian View of Life. Okay. What is truly revolutionary about molecular biology in the post-Watson-Crick era is that it has become digital. After Watson and Crick, we know that genes themselves, within their minute internal structure, are
Wait, right
long
there,
string
structure.
of.
Did you see that right? In their structure, which is the shape, like I said.
Right. But let me continue, please.
Go ahead.
And then you can tell me about the structure.
Go for it.
Within their minute internal structure are long strings of pure digital information. What is more, they are truly digital in the full and strong sense of computers and compact disks, not in the weak sense of the nervous system. The genetic code is not a binary code as in computers, nor an 8-level code as in some telephone systems, but a quaternary code with 4 symbols.
Yeah, so everything you just said also agrees with me.
The symbols themselves don't matter, but I'll get to that in a little bit.
So everything he said just agrees with me. Digital information is physical. It's just the shape. There's no abstract information there. Same thing I just said.
No, he didn't say.
Same thing I just said.
Let me finish the quote.
Okay.
The machine code of the genes is uncannily computer-like. Apart from differences in jargons, the pages of the molecular biology journal might be interchanged with those of a computer engineering journal.
Okay, everything you said agrees with everything I just said again. So literally nothing you've said has disagreed with anything I said. So all of that quote agrees with me. 100%. Everything he said agrees with me.
You see, you're getting heated and you're not letting me finish the quote.
Yes, because you're wasting my time. I literally addressed this already. And you're just going straight down the line I've already addressed and already told you the answer to this.
All right. Okay. Let me do this then. Let me use this quote.
Look, it doesn't matter how many quotes you give. Every single quote is going to lead to the same thing. I've addressed every possible quote you could ever give in the history of mankind.
So
all biologists agree with me.
You're saying that it's just chemistry, it's not information, right? It's just chemistry,
no, chemistry
right?
is information.
Reacting.
Shannon information is the physical thing. Shannon information exists in crystals and black holes and magnets. There is no abstract information. It's just the physical shape. And real biologists call that information. That's fine.
Black holes isn't encoded information. It doesn't contain an encoding and decoding mechanism, right?
It does. It's all physical systems do. It's called Shannon information.
Okay. Can you label the encoding and decoding mechanism of a black hole for me?
Yes, it's called Hawking
Which is
radiation.
independent, which is independent of the communication medium. Can you do that for me?
Hawking radiation.
Huh?
Hawking radiation. Yes.
What do you mean?
Hawking
What's the
radiation
encoding?
is the encode is the thing. Yes. So physical
What's
the
what's
encode reading system is the physical shape. It's like if you have a key that plugs into a keyhole, it's the physical shape. There's no magical abstract information in there. Like there's no, it's like a magnet. You have a positive end and a negative end, and the positive end connects to the negative end. They connect together. That's the information. That is the encode decode system. They have a physical shape. One of the things fits into the other of the things. And that pattern is the encode decode process. The same in DNA. It has a pattern, ATCG, and it connects to other patterns, ATCG. It's just the physical shape, nothing other than the physical shape.
Well, I don't understand. What's okay? First, start with the encoding. What's the encoding mechanisms? First, start with that.
The right side of the shape.
So the shape is the encoding mechanism,
Yes.
and then what's the decoding mechanism?
The shape of the other particle that interacts with it.
And that's independent of the medium.
No, it's physical. It is the medium.
What would you say? I don't. You're still not giving me the. Would you say gravity is a code?
No, gravity is a force. So the code is like the physical shape of the thing is the encoding process. What it does is it has a shape like up, up, down, down, or whatever. And the decoding thing is a different set of particles that only bond with just that shape. They can't bond with other shapes. They can only bond with that shape. Like a magnet, you got a positive end and a negative end. They can only bond together. They can't bond differently. So the encode is the particular shape of the magnets. And the decode is the particular shape of the other magnet that can only bond in one way with the magnet. So you have an encode of the magnet and a decode magnet. And when they bond together, you have the encoding decoding process because they have a physical shape, and the physical shape can only bond in one particular way. So the DNA is the same. It has a particular shape. That is the encoding system. And the decoding system is a different physical object that hits it in a specific way that can only bond in a specific way. And that's decoding because it's just one physical thing hitting a different physical thing, and it can only attach in one way.
Okay, so here's the quote that you tried to stop me from reading. Paul Davies reinforced the point that obtaining the building blocks would not explain their arrangement. Just as bricks alone don't make a house, so it takes more than a random collection of amino acids to make life. Like house bricks, the building blocks of life have to be assembled in a very specific and exceedingly elaborate way before they have the desired function, right?
Yes,
An
the shape,
analogy,
which I
an
already addressed,
analogy.
that's literally every quote you're going to say is always going to agree with me and prove me right. Every single quote you read from any biologist is going to prove me
Okay,
right.
okay, okay, okay. Let me finish, and then you can explain how this proves you right. An analogy is written language. Natural objects in forms resembling the English alphabet, circles, straight lines, blah blah blah, abound in nature. But this fact does not help us understand the origin of information, such as that in Shakespeare's plays. The reason is that this task requires intelligence, both to create the information, the play, and then to design and build the machinery required to translate that information into symbols, the written text. What must be explained is the source of the information in the text, the words and the ideas, not the existence of circles and straight lines. Likewise, it is not enough to explain the origin of amino acids, which currently respond to the letters. Rather, even if they were produced readily, the source of information that directs the assembly of the amino acids contained in the genome must be explained. So, what is the source of the information that directs the assembly of these amino acids?
The shape. It's literally the shape. Literally everything you said, just I already explained this. It's literally the exact same answer. The shape is the information. You have a magnet with a positive end and a magnet with a negative end. The information is the fact that the positive end can only connect to the positive end. That's it. It's a physical fusion of the shape. That's the information.
Well, like,
There's no abstract information there. It's just the physical shape.
so you're saying information is just physical?
Yes. Literally called physical information.
So you're a materialist.
Yes.
So then, if that's the case, then why do you have a floppy disk with a lot of information in it, and then you have a floppy disk with no information in it, and they both weigh the same?
Because it's the shape of the information, not the number of particles.
But the information is still there. It's still full of information, right?
Uh, but what?
You have a floppy disk, right? You
Yes.
have one floppy disk. It's
Yes.
full of information. It has a whole bunch of
Yes.
information on it. Then you have one floppy disk that doesn't have any information on it.
Well, they both have
Why do
information.
both
They both
floppy
have the
disks weigh the
exact
same?
same amount of information. They're just information of different things.
What?
They both have information. They're just different information.
What do you mean by different information?
One is just blank, so the information it has is essentially random, and one has
It's blank.
information that
It's
has.
blank, so it has no information.
Well, no, it still has information. Like all particles have information.
What do you mean all particles have information?
Our Shannon information theory is literally the paper on information. All particles have information. Everything has information. It's just what is the information saying? One information is Windows, one information is Mac, one information is blank. They all have information. So information is the physical shape of the thing. And so if you have a dice that says 6 ones and a dice that have 6 sixes and a dice that has 2, 3, 5, 7, 2, 3, 5, 6, 4, all of them have exactly the same information.
Would you say the information in a computer system is the same as the information in DNA?
All information is the same in general. Like different kinds of information about different things, but they're all information.
What type of, how would you describe the information in a computer system?
I don't know what you mean. It's information, Shannon information. It has a particular pattern to it.
What is the encoding and decoding in a computer system?
The language,
What do you mean?
the programming language, Visual C++. You have a
No,
word.
but what is the? I'm sorry.
Like, I don't understand your questioning. So
Okay.
it's a code. Like in computer languages, is a code. It's a formal language, and the formal language has a physical process associated with it. That there's an arbitrary word like action, go, run, and that thing causes a physical interaction in the thing in the computer. So we made up a language which is arbitrary, and that arbitrary language has an abstract meaning to it, which is then conveyed to the computer through a physical process. DNA does not.
So
There's no abstract meaning in the DNA at all. None. Zero. So it's not the same as a computer program. Even though it's analogous, it is not the same. There is no abstract meaning in a DNA language. There is abstract meaning in human languages.
I I don't understand. What do you mean? What do you mean?
So like the word tree in English is arbitrary. There's no like physical determining thing in the word. Like if we analyzed the shape of the word tree, we will never understand what the word tree means. So the information in the word tree is abstract. It's not determined by the physical shape of the word. In DNA, all of the information is in the physical shape, nothing else. There's no abstract meaning in it. It's all just based off the physical shape. You can know the information just by looking at the physical shape and nothing else.
So you're saying that because we assigned the word tree to a tree, that causes the information. Is that what you're saying?
No. So there's different kinds of information. In the word tree, the information is abstract. It's not determined by the physical shape of the word. What causes the information is that we have applied an abstract meaning to the physical shape, but the physical shape isn't what causes the meaning. The information isn't in the physical shape, it's in the abstract concept. In DNA, the information is just the physical shape and nothing but the physical shape, like a magnet. There's no abstract information in DNA.
So
So I found a quote from, I'm looking at the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy on Biological Information, section 4, genetic code. It literally says this right here. If the causal relation is to be described in informational terms, then it is a matter of ordinary Shannon information which applies to environmental factors. So everything I just said is just the physical shape. Shannon information.
so do you consider tree rings as information?
Tree rings?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's information in the same sense as all other environmental factors.
So do you consider that the same as information in DNA?
Yes, sort of.
The same type of information?
Well, the tree rings are purely responding, so nothing reads them except us if we're looking at the trees. So the tree rings don't cause
Exactly.
anything.
Exactly.
So the
So in
information
other
in
words,
DNA is more like the magnets, where there's one end of the magnet is read by the other end of the magnet. So there is something that interacts.
okay, maybe do you understand what I say when I say the information in DNA is independent of the communication system? Do you
Uh,
understand what I
Abstract. I
mean by
think you're
that?
saying abstract there, but I'd say that's false. That's, as I just read, that's false. So
Okay, the
let me
information.
see if I can put it this way. It's if you have
Well,
a
can I give you an
symbol.
example?
Well, let me see if I can steelman your position. You tell me this is right or not. So it says like if you have a symbol like tree, there's no way you can know from the way it's shaped what it means. There's no way to know that. You can't just look at the shape and determine the meaning, which means there's some the term, what was the term you used? Independent of the what's it?
Communication medium.
Yeah, so the meaning of the word tree is independent of the communication medium. We'll never know from the communication medium what the word tree means. Whereas in the case of DNA, it is not the case. We can know everything about what the DNA means just by the communication medium, the physical shape. The communication medium in DNA is the physical shape, and we can know everything about what it means just from the communication medium. We don't need to look, it's nothing is independent of that. Whereas in the case of the word tree, we can't know what the word tree means because it is completely independent of the communication medium. That's the difference. DNA, it is not independent of the communication medium. It is completely dependent on the communication medium, the physical shape. The word tree, the meaning is completely independent of the communication medium, so we'll never know what it means just by looking at the word tree.
Okay, what I mean is the information is independent of the communication, as every strand of DNA in your body represents a complete plan of your body. Even though the DNA in the strand itself is only a sequence of symbols that are made up of chemicals A, C, T, G, whatever, right? We could store a drawing of a hard drive on the same model of hard drive, right? Because the medium and the message are two distinctly different things.
The medium is the shape of the content, not just the CD isn't the medium. The medium is the shape of the stuff. So it's not no, the CD isn't the medium. The CD is what holds the medium. The medium is the shape. Because you have the same shape on a hard drive or a CD or any kind of USB. So it's not, the medium isn't
But
the CD. The medium is the shape. It's a pattern.
the molecule itself is the medium. Okay, the ordering of the base pairs defines the code. You agree with that, right?
Well, no. The pattern is the medium. The molecule is what holds the pattern.
So you're defining information as a pattern.
Yes.
So the information on your computer that does an automatic virus test, is that what you call a pattern?
That is a pattern. It's one kind of pattern.
It's the same as DNA then, right?
Well, that's a different
Because
kind of pattern.
a mind doesn't have to be present in order for you to set your computer to automatically shut off or do a virus update, right? You don't
Sure.
have to be
Well, I
present. You
mean,
can just set it. You can just set the program, and then it just does its thing, right?
well, that does require a mind because that isn't determined by the physical shape. That's determined by me pressing a button. So, like, whether or not it does a virus test isn't
No, no,
determined by the
right.
physical shape.
No, right, but you don't have to a mind doesn't have to be present for a communication system to work. That you can set it up, leave it there, and it will run for a long, and it can run for a long time without you having to interfere, right?
Sure.
Right. So that's the whole point. Like the DNA is just a system that has been set up, just like your
Well, no, no, no.
computer
So that's
virus.
the difference. So in a computer, it isn't set up by the physics in the computer. The computer doesn't do everything for it. Like I have to set it to do a virus test. It can't just. It's the virus test isn't fixed by the shape of the computer. If if the computer had to do a virus test because it was physically impossible for it not to do a virus test, then it would be physically determined by the computer. But it's not. The the whether or not it does a virus test is only if I make a change to it to make it do a virus test. In DNA, it's physically determined to do the virus test. It can't not do the virus test. It's not like an on-off switch. It literally has to do it because of the physical shape of the DNA. For that to be analogous, the computer would have to be physically forced to do a virus test before it was even made because that's the only way for the physics of the computer to bind together. So that's the difference. Like in the virus test, it's abstract. In the virus test, it may or may not do a virus test because the meaning behind it is made up by us. In DNA, it's completely determined. It's determined by the physical shape. It can't not do the virus test. It has to do the virus test because there's no other physical way for it to be.
So you're saying that it just has information because it has no other choice but to have information. That's what you're saying. It's just information because it's information. I don't understand. You're not making any sense.
No, no. So there's two different kinds of information. One is abstract information. One is physically determined information. These are two different things. Abstract information means the information is not contained in the medium, like you said. So the word tree, nothing in the word tree tells us what the word tree means. We have no idea what the word tree means just by looking at its shape. But if we look at a magnet, everything about the magnet we can know just by looking at the shape of the magnet. So the information in the magnet is just its physical shape. The information in tree is abstract because it's not contained in its physical shape. Information in DNA, information in computer is like the information in the word tree. It's abstract. Like there's nothing telling us in the physical process of the computer what the words run or stop mean. In the information in DNA is like a magnet where it's just physically determined by the physical shape of the magnet in the DNA. So there's two different kinds of information. One is where the information is completely determined by the physical shape, and all of the information you can know just by looking at the physical shape. And there's another kind of information where it's abstract information, and you can't know that just by looking at the physical shape. Trees and computers are abstract. DNA and magnets are concrete, determined by their physical shape. Does that make sense?
Okay. Okay. Let me ask you something. Um, Pretend I take a piece of chalk, right? And I write my name on a blackboard with a piece of chalk. I write, hello, my name is S Global. Okay. If I ask you where did the information come from, would you say it came from the chalk? If I rubbed the message off the board and showed you the chalk on my hand, would you say there is information on it?
No, no, no. That's abstract information. So that's like the word tree.
So obviously information was carried on the material of the chalk because of the arrangement, but chalk has no inherent information
Right, that's
content.
the abstract kind of information. So remember, there's two kinds of information. There's abstract, where the information is not contained in the physical shape, and there's concrete, where the information is contained in the physical shape. So a magnet,
Right. So
the magnet is just the physical shape. The positive end goes to the positive end. You can't make it not to go to the positive end. All of the information is just in the shape. The chalk, there's not. There's no physical determining factor in that. It's purely abstract. DNA is like the magnet, not like the chalk. The word.
but okay, but similarly, DNA is comprised of phosphates, sugar, bases, but the matter that it is made of does not contain the information.
No,
The
no, it does.
arrangement of it
The matter
does.
does contain the information because the information is the shape. It's literally the shape. So that does contain the information. The chalk, it doesn't, because the chalk doesn't contain the information. It's abstract. Just the word you drew is abstract. But the DNA is concrete. So it does, like the magnets, contain the information. The physical shape does contain the information.
I don't understand. I really don't. This is just not making any sense to me.
I'm not sure what's not making sense to you. So, information can be contained in shapes without any kind of abstraction at all. So, like if you have a key fits in a keyhole. The information is just the shape of the key. You can know all of the information in the key just by looking at the key. The physical shape contains the information. The word tree or the word hi, I'm S Gloval,
How is a key information?
literally it's information. That's literally what don't you understand about that?
How is a key information? I don't understand. You say the key, the shape of a key is information. How's the shape of a key information?
So on a CD, it's just a bunch of ones and zeros, right? Up and downs. It's physical
Right.
shape, and that's information, right?
Well, the ones and zeros don't mean anything.
What what do you mean? That's what information is. It's the physical shape on the CD.
No, but you said the ones and zeros. The ones and zeros don't mean anything, right?
No, they do. That's what it is. A CD is just a big key. That's all it is.
No, no, but the ones and zeros are just what we assign to it. It doesn't mean anything, right?
Right, because we have an abstract reader. So the reader, what reads the CD is abstract. Keys are go into a physical lock, so it's not abstract. It's a physical thing.
But it's just a physical thing. It's not information. I don't
No,
understand
no,
how
no.
you
So,
go
so if
from.
there's a key which has a shape and it fits into a lock, and the lock reads the key, that's information. That's literally physical information. That's how physical information works.
Okay, a strand of DNA in a skin cell that falls from your body contains a plan for a human being, even though neither the skin cell nor the strand of DNA are human beings, right?
Sure,
You agree with that, right?
sure.
So this is what I mean when I say independent of the communication medium, because a book
No, no, that's
represents
not independent of the
more than.
communication medium. So that's the
What can I
shape.
finish? Or can I finish real
Sure,
fast?
go for it. Go for it.
A book represents more than paper and ink because it contains plans, it contains ideas, instructions via the coded information, right? If the let's say if the topic of the book is paper or ink, chemistry or instructions, it still contains plans and ideas independent of the paper and ink it's printed on, right?
Yes, that's abstract information. So like if you look at a book, you cannot know what the book means just by looking at the book.
So then how does DNA not contain the same information?
Because all of the information you can know just by looking at its physical shape. So all of the information in DNA is just the shape, whereas a book, it's not the shape. So you can't know what Shakespeare means just by looking at the book of Shakespeare. You can't decipher the meaning of Japanese just by looking at the shapes of the Japanese words. You can know all of the meaning of DNA just by looking at the shape of the DNA. It's all in the shape, all of the information. There's not a single part of DNA information that you can't learn just by looking at its shape. All of it is just the shape.
What do you mean you can't learn it by looking at a shape? I don't understand.
So
You
like
can.
if you draw like the example you gave where you take a piece of chalk and you draw your name hi I'm S Gloval on a chalkboard, there is information in that the sentence hi I'm S Global. If I was Japanese or something and I didn't know English and I looked at that sentence, I would never be able to figure out what that meant just by looking at it. Because the information isn't in the physical shape of the hi I'm S Global. It's something it's abstract. It's something else, somewhere else. But if I look at a key, I can know all of the information on the key just by looking at the key because I can know how it's going to open a door or open a lock. And so there's two different kinds of information. There's physical information, which you can know just by looking at the shape, and there's abstract information, which you can't know by looking at the shape. And DNA is physical information like a key and a lock. The key is read by the lock, just like DNA is read by the proteins. The DNA is the key, the proteins is the lock.
Okay. Uh, I'm still having. Okay. Let me try and put it a different way. Um. So you agree that semantical information objectively exists, right?
What information?
Semantical.
What is semantical?
It's why your computer monitor turns off when the power saver tells it to. That is subjective. That it's real.
I don't know what semantical means.
That the information is real.
Right. So there's two different kinds of information.
It has meaning.
Sure. Semantical? Semantical.
I'm sorry, maybe my
Yeah,
pronunciation is bad. Sorry,
that's
my
fine. That's
English.
fine. Yeah, semantical just mean like having adjectives, verbs, that kind of stuff.
Meaning.
Yeah, relating to meaning.
Yeah, it has meaning to it. So you agree with that?
Sure. Yes.
And do you agree that DNA has this type of meaning?
No.
Like let's say a strand uh to produce like a bunny rabbit. You
No.
don't think
No.
that
So
has
there's
meaning?
two different kinds of meaning there. One is abstract meaning. One is concrete. They're different things.
Oh, and DNA to you is concrete.
Yes, and to all biologists.
All biologists.
Yes. Consensus. So by all I mean the consensus. Always all means consensus.
So what? So if I provided to you peer-reviewed papers that said otherwise, what would you say?
I would say, what is the consensus? Do you know what consensus means?
Well, yeah, but you would have to show that that's the consensus, which you haven't done, right? I mean, you're just basically just saying it's the consensus. I mean, I could do that all day too. I could just sit here and say, oh, the consensus is that DNA contains code. I could. I mean, how do you show that?
Okay, so I'd have to like find research on this. It's so commonly known. I don't know. Do you think that most biologists are physicalists?
Um, what do you mean?
Like most biologists are like me. They're atheists. They just believe the world's made of matter. There's nothing more than matter. Do you think most biologists?
I wouldn't. I don't know if I would say most. I don't know. Maybe I don't know about that. Maybe
So it's
half.
like in
I
the
don't know about.
like I've researched this quite a bit. Most biologists, like 90 something percent, are purely physicalists in what exists there. Like same with physics, same with pretty much every academic field. Most of them are atheistic. I'm not sure if where I can find the resources on that. I can find the quotes on it. I don't. I'd have to look it up because I haven't researched it in a while. But the vast majority of biologists think there's nothing but physical stuff. Just like the vast majority of philosophers, just like the vast majority of physicists, just like the vast majority of cosmologists.
So
All of the
so
consensus.
everything that exists is physical. Like you
Yep.
don't believe in immateriality at all.
Yep. Correct. And most
Well,
biologists do too. And so that means that they think that all it is physical DNA. There's nothing else. There's nothing else there.
well, even if that was true, that most biologists believe that, that doesn't make it true, right?
Uh, it means that all of the experts in the field who've studied this and understand it more than everyone else think
Well,
it's
just
just
because they
physical.
study and understand it doesn't mean that they're not biased. To Because as
No,
you
no.
said, they're
Remember, we
atheists,
know they're
right?
not biased because it's the consensus. Everyone wants everyone else to be wrong, so it's the consensus. They're not biased. This is we know what works without bias. Filtering out the bias. This is what works. The only thing that works.
That's your claim that it filters out bias. My claim is that it doesn't filter out bias.
Okay,
So I
you can
mean, how
have
do you
that
prove
opinion.
something
You can
like that?
think that the consensus doesn't filter out bias, but that's just objectively wrong. But you can have that opinion if you want.
I mean, the consensus is also that physical reality had a beginning. So, I mean, you
No,
have a
no,
contradiction
no,
there, don't you?
no, no. I don't. I've never seen that consensus. No one says that physical reality had a beginning.
Stephen Hawking in his book said that the scientific consensus is that all of physical reality had an absolute beginning.
Nope, that's not the consensus at all. So the consensus in cosmology is that it didn't. The Big Bang had our physical reality, but not all physical reality. Like every single model has an
Oh,
eternal physical
I only
thing.
have evidence of one physical reality. I don't have evidence of a multiverse. So I don't understand what you're saying.
That's all still a part of the physical reality. So the Big Bang is the beginning of our space-time, not all space-time, our space-time. So our space-time had a beginning. Not all physical things had a beginning, just ours. So those are two separate things. The consensus in physics,
But
like
if you're saying,
this one, I do have a reference for. So in the debate between Sean Carroll and William Lane Craig, William Lane Craig made this argument, and Sean Carroll said, if we look at, I did a Google search for 30 seconds and found 30 models of physics that all have a past eternal physical infinite.
and all of them have, first of all, have no evidence to support it. It's just a model. Second of all of them fail.
No, they don't. So again, that you can take that up with Sean Carroll. I'm just going to go with the consensus here. The consensus of experts
I saw that debate. I saw, you're not okay. Give me Sean Carroll's objection. What does Sean Carroll say?
Objection to what?
Objection to a universe with a beginning.
So the argument he was making was that the vast majority of physicists who understand this better than everyone else in the world, because this is what they do, have all concluded that there is not a physical beginning to all physical stuff.
Right. They instead say that the universe just popped into existence out of nothing. That's what they say.
Two separate things. No one says the universe came from nothing. No one says that. Not even Lawrence Krauss says that, even though it's his stupid quote. He admitted that no, it didn't come from a literal philosophical nothing. So all of the physicists conclude our universe had a beginning from something that was independent of our space-time, but that thing was also physical, and there's more evidence for this than there is of God.
Wait. Can you repeat the last few sentences you said, because you froze up?
Sure. So the consensus in physics is that our physical universe had a beginning from other physical things, and we have more evidence of this than we have evidence of God by a significant margin.
I don't understand. You said that there's physical things before physical things existed?
No, there's physical things before our universe existed. Our universe is not everything. Our universe had a beginning that is not the beginning of all physical things. It's the beginning of our subjective universe.
So you're saying that there's another universe outside of this universe. That's what you're saying.
Well, there's other physical things outside of this universe, yes.
That would be a universe. Space matter would be a universe.
No. Universe does not mean all physical things.
Well, yes, it does mean all physical things are space, time, and matter. What else apart from space, time, and matter is physical?
Emergent space-time is the consensus in physics, which means space-time emerges from some spatial timal thing.
You're not making any sense. You're basically telling me that physical things existed before physical things then brought the universe.
So physical things exist outside of space-time. You don't need space-time for physical things. Emergent space-time, amplitude-hedron, Nima Arkani Hamad, emergent space-time, Sean Carroll. You can find lots of examples of this. This is.
Okay. Besides the lack of evidence for this, my question to you is,
again. So this has more evidence than a God by infinitely many, because it's a combination of physics. So
what evidence does this have without begging the question? What evidence does this have?
It's a combination of verified principles, particles, and laws in physics. So the multiverse theory.
Laws of physics didn't exist until the universe came into existence.
No, wrong. No one says that. Everyone says that's wrong. So our universe had a beginning. Only our universe. Infinitely many other things existed before our universe. You don't.
Like
our universe was not the beginning of everything. It was the beginning of our universe and nothing but our universe. It's like saying that I was born and nothing existed before I was born. Like, clearly that's wrong.
But listen to what you're telling me. You're basically telling me that there's like a multiverse out there that's just not like our own. There's like a different physical reality, which is basically another name for multiverse.
Yes. So the multiverse theory is one of the hypotheses, and the multiverse theory is a combination of two things: a combination of early universe inflation, which has been empirically confirmed as Guth's early universe inflation, and vacuum energy states, which has been confirmed physically, which is the Casimir effect. So both of those principles have been demonstrated to exist and be real in the world. Like all of the pieces of the theory have been confirmed, even if the collection hasn't been confirmed, which means it has more evidence than a God, because God is a bunch of things that haven't been confirmed, like all-powerful, all-knowing, all-loving, blah, blah, blah. None of those things have been confirmed.
Hold on. I'm just sticking with the space, time, and matter here.
Right.
Space, time, and matter had a beginning, and so far we only have evidence of space, time, and matter within our universe. If there's another physical reality out there, and if it's not made of space, time, and matter, I want to know what it's made out of. That's all I'm asking you.
It can just be made of a different space, time, and matter. So our space, time had a beginning,
but it's still space, time, and matter. It's just a different space, time, and matter, but it's still space, time, and matter.
So not all space, time had a beginning. Ours did, not all.
but you don't have evidence for
Yes,
another
we do.
space, time, and matter.
Yes, we do.
Just you can't you in principle you can't have evidence because you can't have evidence for a multiverse.
No, that's wrong. So we have more evidence of this than a god, infinitely more. So again, this is why it's
I
the
mean,
consensus in
I
physics.
literally
So
just watched
you
a
you can
video.
disagree with every physicist if you want, but I'm going to say no.
But that's
Good
what I'm
luck with that.
saying. I just watched a video with physicists who say there is no evidence for this. That is faith-based. Lawrence Krauss himself said that in a video I watched just the other
No, no,
day.
no, no. What they mean is that there's no independent verification of the complete hypothesis because they have a higher standard of
No,
evidence
no,
than
no,
you do. So
no,
again,
no.
as I said
They
before,
specifically asked him if there is any
no,
evidence
no. Again, you
whatsoever,
don't
and he
understand
said
what
no.
physicists mean by evidence. Physicists mean, can that combination of particles be verified? The answer is no. Are each of the parts verified? Yes. So if God is a combination of
No, 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 no,
lots
no,
of
no, no.
different things,
That's
none of which have been verified. So God, there's
no, no,
no
no, no.
all powerful, all knowing, all loving. None of that's been verified. All of the parts of the multiverse
Well,
theory
it has
have
been
been
verified.
verified.
Well, it has been verified because it's been verified that there was a beginning. It
No,
hasn't been
again, wrong, wrong.
verified
Our
that
universe had a beginning, just like I
right.
had a
And
beginning. I was born. That does not mean that nothing existed before me. There are lots of things
but
before
there's no
me.
evidence for it.
There's
But
lots
there's
of
no
evidence for
evidence
that.
for it.
Every cosmologist concludes there was something before this. Every single one of them. That is the consensus. If you want to disagree with that, take it up with them.
Well, yes, I disagree. I base my beliefs on evidence, not the consensus. I have evidence that our universe began to exist, which you agreed, and
Our
you're telling me
universe
that
is
there's a
not
physical.
all universes.
I believe that there's only one. I only have evidence for one universe, our universe. I don't have evidence for a
Okay,
multiverse.
so if you want to say every physicist is wrong, you
And
can say that.
even if there was a multiverse, even if there was a multiverse, it would still have to have a beginning.
No, no, that's wrong too.
And there's more. I mean, there are so many problems with this. To be honest, I mean, you're telling me that that there's some physical reality out there that's causing other universes to pop into existence. I mean, why doesn't a universe pop into existence within our own universe, wiping out our own universe? Why doesn't that? Why a universe?
Well,
Any
their
in the
virtual
first
particles
place?
do pop into existence in our universe.
Well, particles don't pop into existence.
Yeah.
They require a space vacuum, right?
No, they do pop into existence. That's why they're called virtual particles. That's the Casimir effect. We
No, they don't
literally see
pop
that
into
happen. Susan.
existence.
We literally observe that happening.
First of all, there are many interpretations of this.
No,
They
there are
don't
not.
pop
There are
into
not. There are not
existence.
many interpretations of this. Virtual particles have literally been empirically demonstrated. Casimir effect. Google it.
They don't pop into existence. They require a space
We
vacuum.
literally,
They
we have
pop into
literally
existence.
demonstrated this in a lab. They
They,
literally pop into existence. We've literally watched them pop into existence. This is
but not
called the
out of nothing.
Casimir
But not out
effect.
of
Google
nothing.
it.
But not out of nothing. A
Out
space
of
is
nothing.
required. Space is required, right?
No
I
one
mean,
says no
you
one
can't.
says anything popped into existence from nothing. No one believes the universe popped into existence from nothing. No one. No one believes that.
But you just told me that vertical particles pop into existence from nothing. That's what you just
From
told me.
space. If you want to call space something, that's fine too. But no one, literally no one believes the universe came into existence from nothing. Our universe came into existence from a previously
But
existing physical thing.
but the space vacuum. But this doesn't pop into existence without a cause, right? The space vacuum is the
It's
cause
always
of the vertical
existed.
particles,
Like
right?
there's always been a natural thing that has always existed. There was never not a natural thing that existed.
But you're not answering my question. I said that the virtual particles popped into existence with a cause, not without a cause, right? There was a cause, right? And just
Sure.
so I don't know why you even bother telling me about vertical particles.
That's how our universe came into existence, like the virtual particles did. Our universe has the exact same origin as the virtual particles.
I don't understand. So you're saying space creates other space?
Yes,
So why don't we see so why don't we see this happening all the time?
we do. It's called
Why does
virtual
space
particles.
why does huh?
We do. They're called virtual particles. We do see it happening all the time.
That's not virtual. Well, that's not space just creating virtual particles out of nothing. That's pre-existing energy
No
and
one
things,
thinks the
right?
universe came from nothing. No one thinks the universe came from nothing. The universe came from
I
virtual space, like just like virtual particles, the exact same thing. No one thinks it came from nothing.
but but you need to but what you need to explain is the origin of space itself, which you can't explain. You're
No,
telling
there's
me about
always
things
been a
popping
natural
in,
thing. There's always been a necessary natural thing that has always
but
existed and was never created.
you just told me that space time had a beginning. Now you're telling me
No.
it
Our
always
space time
exists.
had a beginning. Not all space time had a beginning.
So you're telling me that there's like a multiverse out there, and one of those multiverses is eternal. So you're so that's that what you're telling me?
The multiverse is eternal, yes.
So you believe it. So you do believe in a multiverse.
Well, there's a physical thing that is eternal. Multiverse is one of the possibilities.
I, what other physical thing could there be apart from multiverse? I don't
String
understand.
theory, M theory, many worlds hypothesis.
None of all of these things don't have no
All of
evidence
these
and
have more
actually have
evidence than
evidence
God. All of
against them.
these have more evidence than God. These are all better
What
than God.
evidence? What evidence does this do these theories have?
They are
A
combinations
hypothesis
of
have?
physical principles that have been verified. So here's the difference. The multiverse theory is a combination of two things: vacuum states and early universe inflation. Both vacuum states and early universe inflation have been empirically demonstrated. None of the parts of God have been empirically demonstrated. Therefore, the multiverse theory has more evidence
What do
than
you mean none of
God.
the
Wait, wait,
parts
wait.
of God? God is not made out of parts.
All powerful, all knowing, all loving. Like that's. I'm just calling those parts. You don't have to think they're actual
Well, those are
parts.
qualities.
That's fine. That's fine.
Those
It
aren't
doesn't
parts,
matter.
right?
Qualities, parts, synonyms doesn't make a difference. So all of the qualities of the multiverse have been demonstrated. None of the qualities of God have been demonstrated. So if I say like there is a unicorn or there is a horse, what caused the hoof print in the snow? If it was caused by a horse, that's reasonable because all of the parts of horses have been demonstrated. If I say it's caused by a unicorn, that's not reasonable because none of the parts of unicorns have been demonstrated. So if we say what caused the universe, if we're saying it's the multiverse, all of the parts of the multiverse have been demonstrated to already exist. Vacuum states, early universe inflation. None of the parts or qualities of God have been demonstrated to exist. They're all powerful, all knowing, all loving. None of those have been demonstrated to exist. So there's more evidence of the multiverse than there is for God because all of the parts have already been demonstrated to exist.
This isn't making any sense at all because you're telling me that just because that we already have a space time, that means that there could be another space time out there, a different type of space time. We don't have evidence for a different type of space time. That's the point that I'm trying to make.
Yes, we do.
We
Emergent
the
space-time, consensus, physics, Google, emergent space-time.
emergent space time.
Yes, emergent space-time.
Okay, emergent space time. Emergent space time. And what does emergent space time say?
That space-time, that our space-time came about by a pre-existing thing, which you would call space-time.
So basically, a multiverse.
That's one of the possibilities, yes.
So you're saying that the matter in our universe is made up of the matter in a different universe.
Uh, sort of.
What do you mean, sort of?
Well, the matter in our universe came about from the matter in a different universe. They're not made of the same thing.
Wait a minute. So you're saying that the matter in our universe didn't exist? Like, I don't understand. Like, it
Yes,
just the
the matter in our
the
universe
pre
had a
the,
beginning. It didn't exist at one point, and it was created from the matter of a different universe.
no, no, yeah, but that's what I'm asking. I'm saying like let's like the matter of a different universe can't sort of, let's just say hypothetically, just split off and
No,
just made a different
it didn't
universe. Is that what
split
you're
off.
saying?
Virtual particles. So it did the same thing virtual particles do that we see in our universe all the time.
Well, what do virtual particles? Virtual particles don't pop into existence from nothing. Is
No
what you
one
just
thinks the
said.
universe came from nothing. No one thinks it came from nothing. It came from
I'm not talking about
space.
the universe. I'm talking about virtual particles. I'm not talking about the universe.
Right. Virtual particles came from the exact same place the universe came from.
Where did virtual particles come from?
Hilbert space.
Hilbert space?
Yes.
What's Hilbert space?
I have no way of knowing how to best explain that to you. Google Hilbert space.
You're saying that there's a different space within space? Is that what you're saying, basically?
No. There's different kinds of space. So there's lots of different uh, fields out there. Space is a collection of fields. Google Hilbert
So,
space.
so, 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 so you watch the debate with William Nate Craig
Sean Carroll.
and you so that means that you know about The BGV theorem, right?
Yep, Borg-Guth-Vilenkin.
Well, you said Hilbert's what? Space, right?
Hilbert
Hilbert
space, yes.
space. Okay. Okay, I think I found it. Okay. I'm gonna take a quick look at this thing, but meanwhile, um, so the the BGV theorem says that it doesn't matter what type of space time you have, it has to have a beginning.
No, it doesn't.
That's what it
Literally,
says.
literally in the same debate, Sean Carroll showed a picture of Alan Guth, one
Yeah,
of
you
the.
show a picture of Alan Goof holding up a sign that he says that he thinks that that the universe could be eternal,
Yep.
which of course you just said that it's not true because the universe
No, no, no,
but
no,
that's
no, no,
besides
no,
the
no.
point.
He's using universe there to mean all physical things. So he does agree with me.
Let's say I agree with that. Let's say I agree with that. That's what he means. That he says the same thing as you. Blah blah blah. He never wrote a paper about that. He never explained himself. He basically just held up a sign. Why didn't he explain himself in a paper?
He's literally talking about the same paper, the Borg-Guth-Vilenkin paper. He did. He
No,
literally
no, no, no,
did.
no. He didn't. He didn't. He never said it in his. He didn't hold up a sign saying the BGV theorem is wrong because of course the theorem isn't wrong,
It's
right?
his theorem. He is Borg. He is Guth. He is the Borg-Guth-Vilenkin of that theorem, that paper. It's his paper.
Yeah, well, Vilenkin is also part of that theorem. That's what it has Vilenkin in it, right?
Yes.
But he wasn't talking about the theorem. He just basically expressed his wish,
No, he's talking
basically,
about the
because
theorem. He's talking
he
about the theorem.
what did he say? He didn't mention the theorem in the sign. I saw the sign.
No,
He didn't mention the
Sean
theorem in the
Carroll did.
sign.
Sean Carroll then explained his position in that thing and said, the Borg-Guth-Vilenkin states that any universe that has an inflation has a beginning to the inflation. Has nothing to do with space-time. Because any universe that begins to inflate has a beginning. The inflation has a beginning, not the space-time.
No, no, no. Well, Alexander Vilenkin, who actually explained his own theorem, unlike Guth. Guth didn't explain. Sean Carroll
No,
made
no,
up his own
Guth
explanation,
has
but
actually been
actually
asked
Vilenkin
this.
has explained plenty of times.
No,
Huh?
yeah, Vilenkin has literally addressed this the same way and says, yes, it is about the geometry. I have emailed Vilenkin personally and asked him this. It's only that any universe that has a beginning inflation
What?
has the geometry which will have a beginning. It has nothing to do with space-time. It's not any space-time has a beginning. It's any universe that has an inflation has a beginning.
Well, William Lane Craig has also emailed him, and he has actually showed the emails from Vilenkin. Would you mind showing those emails from Vilenkin? Because the emails that William Lane Craig showed says that all of space time, any space time, has to have a beginning, and all of these eternal models fail.
Well, no, that's wrong. The vast majority of cosmologists all say that's wrong, including Vilenkin and Guth have literally both said that's wrong. So no.
Vilenkin himself
Again, you can't keep
appeals
quoting
to.
Vilenkin here. That does not work. Sean Carroll literally proved this was wrong by providing dozens of examples that literally prove it's wrong in that debate.
No, he didn't. No. Let me give you a reminder of what he provided here. Let me give you a little reminder.
I actually have the quote saved. He literally said, I did a 30-second Google search and found 30 models of all past eternal infinite universes.
Just because you have a model doesn't mean that the model's true. Or doesn't mean that there's
No, no, no.
evidence for a
It doesn't
model.
need to be true. It proves that there is a universe that can exist eternally that doesn't violate the
But
Borg-Guth-Vilenkin theorem.
no,
So the Borg
no, but there is no model that doesn't violate the BGV
That's
theorem. That's the
literally what he
point.
proved. That's literally he proved that that is not the case. Here are 30 models that don't violate it that all do this. That's what he proved in the debate.
So okay, so here it goes.
But anyway,
Carol pointed out, huh?
uh, I can actually find the quotes for you. I have them listed where Carroll does literally say I Googled this I Googled this in 30 seconds. I found all of these models that all have a past eternal infinite. But I have to get going and I have to get ready. It's 1:30. So move this to part 2. Thanks for coming on. It was fun chatting. Do you have any closing stuff you wanted to mention?
No, this is the first time I've actually done something like I didn't even prepare. Actually, this is the first time I've actually done something like this, and this was very interesting.
Yep, cool. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate your time. And now I'm going to go get some lunch. Talk to you later.
Me too. Thanks.